welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link, together with a thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Oh, same old, right? It's always wait a few minutes, same people come in, right? And then they talk about the same thing, right? Ballers. Nothing's changed too much.
Static still coming in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was in there the other day when I went in, so I happened to go in just because I was trying to figure out an audio problem, and he was in there talking crap, and I had to listen to it because I was doing other things, and I needed to be in there to have audio feeding to me. But listening to his irritating voice, once I'd finished, I thought, I'll sod this, I'll open my mic, tell him all how stupid he is and how wrong he is.
You did. That was funnier now.
Oh,
my God.
that must have been great.
Oh, it was funny. I laughed at that one.
But they did see that you were in there, right, Nathan? Even though you were doing something, they saw that you were in there, right? Before you spoke?
They know the score. If I'm there at a certain time, I'm not there to talk. And I think Zanik probably knows that. Go ahead, Steve, sorry.
Oh, yeah, they definitely knew you were in there. Because we announced it and everything else, you know. I'm pretty sure I even said something that you were doing audio, because I knew that's what you were in there for. Yeah. And I was trying to keep everybody talking, because sometimes it'll go quiet for a while.
Hey, Adam.
How'd the Rangers get on?
Rangers lost. Your team won, but my Rangers lost.
That was two sets of Rangers last night. I realised that last night also was Glasgow Rangers were playing in the cup final, but they lost as well. The Rangers.
It's so frustrating sometimes, but anyway, I didn't let it get to me.
Yeah, 6 more games.
Yeah, well, who knows? They might sweep us. They might just take the next 3. Who knows? When you got a whole game won like they had it won, and then just lose it in the last 3 minutes and overtime, it's hard to bounce back from that.
Feel for you, bro.
Got a new monitor.
I saw that set up nice. Like my son's, he's turned one sideways, so he's got a really nice scrolling bar.
It's absolutely brilliant.
Full feed, that'll be. Has that got your whole YouTube chat and Discord on that?
On one screen, I used to be able to fit Discord, half of Voice Meter, and with the space left over, I would flick between channel monetization, which is basically memberships, live streaming, which is the desk that you use to monitor your streams running okay, Patreon and the live chat in one gap. So I'd have to flick between them all. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not all laid out individually. I couldn't do it that way because of the distance. I wouldn't be able to read it. So with it just about legible, I can. So you'll probably hear how it's on the knife edge of my vision, right? Because it's, I don't know, 5 feet away. But nevertheless, I've increased its scale by 150%, so it's bigger on screen. So it is readable when I'm just sat here, or I'll probably just end up leaning forward. But I've got my VLC, which is the screen slideshow that you see. So this S1, S2, S3 thing on screen now, that's coming from VLC. So I can monitor that on this screen. I've also got the live dashboard, the chat, the whole of Voice Meter, which is split into 2 sections, OBS, and as is VLC, actually also split into 2 sections. I've got the bit that controls it and the actual video output, all on one screen. All the stuff I need to actually see when you exclude guests. So that's like all the technical side of the show is on one screen. And then on the other screen is my PC temps and stuff that I have to monitor just in case. And something went wrong this morning, actually. I'm glad I have those up. Another live stream desk, because I want it to be in that line of sight also. I want to be able to see what's going out live at all times. So it's on. I've got that twice, basically, on both screens. The Discord chat and Skype. So in other words, all the guest bits, Skype, Discord, and G+, together with a live stream output and PC temps is on one screen. And then another monitor for the live stream, the chat itself, Voice Meter itself, OBS itself, and VLC, and any windows that I now need to open. Oh, and an audio monitor, a secondary audio monitor that I use because one on Voice Meter's tiny, the one for Discord's teeny tiny, so I have a second one. And I can see it all. I don't have to move anything, I have to flick between tabs. The only time I'll have to flick between tabs is I use the secondary live stream monitor to bring up any, if you guys say, oh, can you just go and get this? And it happens to be a video that I've produced, and in other words, I will actually do it. I'll use that tab, but that's my tabs. So, for instance, when I shout out the Patreons, I tend not to use it after that, so that stays on a tab, but I don't tend to bring it back up again. So but it's always, I can always see it. I don't have to get rid of the chat to go to a video, or I don't have to. More importantly, which is the reason I did this, had to overlay OBS to go to a video. So if I want to go and bring up a video that I've made a couple of days ago and say, here's this video while you're talking about it, I'd have to cover up OBS. The most important bit, the bit that actually controls the stream. So I always used to hesitate to do anything that would cover OBS up, because you're like, I want to see it all the time. Anyway, that's it. But my new monitor's in. It's 1440p and on its side, so it's portrait, and it looks brilliant. It's 120 hertz. Excellent.
I saw
fantastic.
Temp taking the mic with a picture of Mission Control after you posted it. If you look at that picture, you're able to pull it up from Master B.
I didn't realise I'd sent you a picture.
Yeah, you sent it 4 yesterday, was it?
Okay. As I can immediately just see. Oh, yes, I did do a picture of it. There we go. Yeah, I'll stick it on screen.
Go to Tents. Just then, when it comes up.
It's up there.
Yeah, he stuck the Mission Control up, and I just looking at it. And if you look at the two people in the front, the first guy on the left is the flight director. And then
when you say that on the left, do you mean at the back towards us, or at the front of the screen?
At the front of the field of view.
Okay.
You got two people in the center. One's called the flight director, and the other's Capcom. Last I checked, Capcom was a superhero company owned by Disney. So another form of Capcom to do with NASA, because it's the only one I know of, which is a video game company.
Capcom is the person that deals with the communications.
Thank you. Bugging me. The captain of communications.
I don't know what the cap bit stands for, but I know that com is communications, and he's the guy that would sit talking back and forth with the video that they've edited in advance.
That's what I was thinking. It's like he's the video game editor, is he?
Another possibility. I've never claimed Capcom's in on the lie, because I think it is possible to orchestrate a hoax around people who are doing their job without them noticing. So I can't necessarily say for certain that Capcom would be in on the lie. Astronauts, absolutely, without question. But I don't know.
It's not hard to fool if you reify those pictures on the big screens, like your big screen in front of you. I mean, look how basic they are. They're like a Atari ST Amiga game back in the 90s.
Yep.
But if you're reifying that and accepting that data as real world, then boxed in that box, it could just be totally real to you.
Listen, it's a big joke. You know it. I know it. We all know it.
Indeed, it is. But back to my monitor, it looks glorious.
Good morning.
It's fantastic.
I was going to say, Nathan, so it sounds like you got a full house there.
What do you mean, full house?
You got everything under control.
I have got everything under control. I'm very happy with it. I'm more happy that I very carefully picked the graphics card for very specific features that it had. And one of the things I thought it would be impossible to buy because I wanted one that had recently come out. And the reason you want one that's recently been made or recently been released is because it will be supported for the longest period of time, which is what you want. You want the drivers to continually be updated for it. And the last one, I used that principle. 8 years later, they're still updating drivers for it. So I can still sell it, the old one. Shh, it's perfect. Anyway, the new one has got a PCIe connection, which means that I can connect to, number one, my old touchscreen monitor, which is probably causing me all sorts of problems. But more importantly, this new monitor. Now, back in the day, DVI was the way you got really high refresh rates. You just got rid of all the other connections and all the scalers and everything, and you just have one connection, which is what this monitor's got. But now things have moved on. Modern graphics cards don't have DVI, so there's loads of people getting rid of DVI monitors for peanuts. And this one is glorious. It's 1,000 times better than the old monitor, and it's got 120 Hz refresh rate on it. So it looks like my phone or the iPad, or not my phone, my wife's phone. It just looks eye-popping. It's amazing. You move the mouse around, it's really smooth, and it just feels nice. And £60. Why? Well, because I've bought a graphics card that happens to have an older connection, and the newer ones don't. And the guy I bought it off even said, oh, I happen to have a DVI connection and could get 120 Hz out of it, but now I've upgraded, I can't. Hence, I'm getting rid of it. And he had all the disclaimers in there, because it's a very limited market that you can sell something with only a DVI connection on. Hence, the price goes down. Very little demand, right? So it means for 60 quid, it's just like the best bargain I've ever had. My wife was saying to me, next time you moan because I come back with a dress that I got for a good price, I'm like, this is totally different.
Exactly.
This took a lot of thought to be able to be in a position to get a monitor for 60 quid that's excellent, totally modern spec, looks glorious, high refresh rate, all the things I want from it, and big for £60 is a testament to the fact that there's been a graphics card shortage. They've had to re-release an old range as a new range, and therefore they've kept the old connections on it, and they're native DVI. So I can run high refresh rates on it. Glorious. I'm just so chuffed. Because I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a gamer. I don't care about the actual specs of the graphics card. I was more fussed that it was A, modern, B, was powerful enough to actually do what I needed, as good or better than what I had, and C, would be compatible with old, meaning my current, and maybe a replacement cheap, which is what I've got, gear. So I'm chuffed to bits. I'm so happy. Anyway, I'll stop talking about it because I will go on about it literally for the rest of the episode.
Your wife is right. You're wrong.
I'm wondering how many dresses my wife can fit in his closet.
I don't know. People find a way to skirt the issue.
I'm serious. I look at it, I'm like, wow, how many more does she need?
Well, my wife does that. She'll find 5 things for the price of one, and then, of course, it takes the place of 5 hangers. So the closet's full, but the price for them is cheap. So it's a good wife.
Did you ever see George Carlin's skit on why people get houses? Because they need more stuff. I need a bigger place.
No, people,
I'm full in storage. My house is full.
People get houses, they're full. They rent storage and they're full. They keep expanding.
That is one bonus of living in an apartment, which is to say, this is definitely positive spin before anybody says, yeah, you're just living in an apartment. Yeah, I am. But either way, we have to get rid of stuff. So, for instance, this graphics card, for a lot of people, they would chuck it in a garage, chuck it in a spare room, it'd just stay in the box. Well, if my current one fails, and they're never going to use it again. And at the time that they do that, it's probably got some value. So for us, there's a need to get rid of stuff, and if it has inherent value, you can't just give it away or chuck it in the bin. If it's working, you just sell it. So that's what we do. We churn stuff. So it means that, for instance, the kids' toys, they get bored of stuff real fast. You just sell it and buy some more. And then you don't get overwhelmed with stuff. The only reason I mention this is because one of the nursery sessions with my youngest, I sat next to this old dear who's talking about her grandkids and so on and so forth that she's looking after. And she explained that she worked really hard to get a really big house, which meant that she didn't get enough time with her kids. And further to that, she spent all of her time cleaning her big house. And she really regretted it. And I was like, oh, well, I'd never really thought about it in that way.
Yeah, but when you have no room, it's frustrating, man. I'm getting frustrated in this place. I need a bigger place. Hey, this graphics card you speak about. So I'm going to have to get another one for my son eventually because he's got a gaming computer. Is that something I'm going to have to worry about down the road?
No, not really. Just it works if it works. If it doesn't, then you have to worry about replacing it. But that's true of any component in the computer. You don't suddenly have to concern yourself that your graphics card's going to get worn out. Mine runs, or had ran, silently, or next to silently, at a reasonably high temperature under a medium load for a long period. And that's what's worn it out. Well, for a gamer, that's much, much worse because they run it at 100% capacity. Or they overclock it. They run it at 110% capacity to get more frame rates. Well, that's wonderful. It's like any piece of electronics. It's got a finite life. The harder you drive it, the less time it'll last, right? Well, for most gamers, they're replacing their graphics cards. I'm just going to guess now, but I'm going to say every 4-5 years if they're a proper gamer. Maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. But I would imagine most of the time it's because they're knackered.
I don't know about all this outmoded technology you're talking about, man. I don't know why you don't just revert back to the 1969 technology that brought us to the moon with a car.
Exactly.
We destroyed that technology. It's very hard to get it back.
And the phone that could speak to people on the moon.
Painful process, yes. Weird that that's the only industry where technology actually gets destroyed and goes backwards. Very weird.
What's that astronaut's name who says that bit?
Who, Don Pettit?
Yeah. Have you ever seen and heard an image of an astronaut that doesn't match what he said? I mean, you just say, is this a stand-in? I mean, is this a clown pretending to be an astronaut? I mean, the way he talks.
The best is when they have him on a show called Smarter Every Day. Right? Smarter Every Day. And on this show, he is asked, what would happen if you have a leak? And his stupendous response is, well, then you'd have a leak. Wow.
No, I thought you were going to point out the irony of the title of the show. So the guy's on Smarter Every Day and is asked, so are we now smarter, aka better, at doing something we did in the 60s and 70s? No, we are not. We're dumber today than we were previously in that regard.
Exactly.
How come so many people are falling for it, though?
Well,
You'd think they would wake up.
People are gullible.
Well, they're
people are trusting and gullible. That's why. Because if you have an authority figure with enough authority and the lie is large enough, people will automatically believe it. Because why would they lie? That whole why would they lie tip that Chocolate took is absolutely on point. That is the brainwashing process. The automatic assumption that Big Daddy's there to protect and look after you. Nothing could be further from the truth, but people don't realise that. It's there to keep you under control, and there's various different means of control that they employ. The very name of the structure is government, right? Mind control? That's what they're there to do. And when you expose a method of their control, people are all shocked and shaken and ask you why they'd lie.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's written books on this subject. He calls it anchors of the mind. So they do this mass hypnosis to news stories over and over and over and over. And so everyone starts believing the same thing because they see it on their phone, they see it in the newspaper. If they still get a newspaper, they get it on TV, whatever. And so everyone's under this mass hypnosis influence. And then their friend says, hey, did you ever think the Earth might be flat? And everyone responds the same way because there's anchors in the mind put in there by the controllers to say, are you one of those? And they all say the same thing.
Wow. I hope that was recorded.
Conspiracy theorist is the title that they've done. You know, this is a kook that says we're wrong when we control your mind. Just understand that we're going to project exactly what we're doing onto the people who oppose us. So therefore, they're kooks and conspiracy theorists. When really, there's a conspiracy to keep you under control that's almost hidden in plain sight. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link, together with a, thanks button if you're watching after the fact, in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this, in turn, increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, the Adam Meakin, Chocolate Saying, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Yo, yo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Happy birthday to my lovely wife, Sarita.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Well,
Shout
Happy
out to
birthday.
Sarita.
time to get a dress.
Well, welcome to Talk Radio, where we have phone-ins for birthdays from the panel members, it seems. No, happy birthday to your wife.
Thank
Hello,
you.
Arwin.
Hello. Hi,
Hello,
guys.
good to have you. Should we crack on? Should we do a bit of housekeeping? Anything pre-housekeeping, housekeeping?
Yeah, is that
I mean-
rumpus on the screen right there?
Our house is pretty clean. I don't know. So,
This house here is exceptionally clean. There is no doubt about it. This house being
Yeah, the
this
flat-
show.
The Flat Earth house has no mortgage. We're going to keep it.
Right, let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
You don't need to.
wait, does from mean the same thing as to?
No.
Oh, okay. Then no.
Maybe in the second dimension you can.
The second dimension.
Yeah.
So we definitely have 3 dimensions, generally speaking, when we're measuring stuff. You know, we're using a Euclidean system. Length, breadth, and depth. What do you mean? On a piece of paper? Is that what you mean?
Mathematically, yes.
Mathematically, in Muppet Vision in 2 dimensions, when you're looking at a circle and claiming that the circle, which would actually be a protractor, is actually the surface of the sphere that would bifurcate the centre of that protractor in the celestial sphere model. That 2-dimensional.
There you go. Problem solved.
It's nice that I have to summarise this stuff in such consistency when my panel are so vague. Thank you, Arwin, for being so concise yourself. any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I'm sorry. I asked the question is from the same thing as to, because you actually said from twice. You want to tell people why you did that?
Looking at you, Arwin.
No, I'm
Sorry.
talking to you, Nathan.
Oh, what did I say?
When you asked, is there any evidence that you can get an elevation angle from a curved baseline? And you said from twice. You kind of, put the stamp on it. Maybe that was glanced over by a lot of people. Do you want to tell people why you said that?
Because you're measuring it by utilising a baseline that you stood upon, as opposed to assuming that the ground beneath you is falling away and the straight line you're measuring is to a tangent point, and the straight line you measure that meets a curved earth that you're not standing on is the straight line that you can utilise. That would be to a tangent point. A straight line to a tangent point, you assume, isn't the ground you're standing on and acquiring a baseline from. So from and to are very different things in this context. I'm glad you asked for clarity.
No doubt.
But what about when they say you don't need to do that? That's what I've been hearing.
Right.
They don't need to do that.
Well, they're not at sea, so, they don't need to figure out where the hell they are when they're in the middle of the ocean and potentially could die if they didn't do it and acquire an elevation angle from a flat baseline. I mean, they don't need to do that in daily life. But if you're out at sea and you're lost and you might lose your life if you don't figure out where the hell you are, you're going to need a flat baseline. Any evidence the distance to the sun?
Nope.
You're going to need to have lots of assumptions.
And yet we're doing basic trig on these measurements when we acquire an elevation angle, right? It's even in the title, isn't it? Elevation? Isn't that how high it is?
Well, that's what they say. They say that we should know the distance of the sun when you do celestial navigation.
No. I wasn't stereotyping our opponent. I was asking my own side a question. You missed the nuance of my question there, Neil. It's called an elevation angle, isn't it, Neil?
Yes.
Going to
What
need a
does-
flat plane for that.
Hold on. You guys are missing what I'm doing, clearly. I like it. What does elevation mean? Anybody at all?
It's height, right?
It does.
Yeah, height from horizontal.
Not exactly.
Point above mean sea level.
Not exactly either.
What the hell does it mean?
It means its angle measured above the horizontal or sea level, as Brian described it. The elevation angle is the degrees that you measure it through the protractor, or, in this case, sextant. How many degrees above the horizon is an elevation angle? But the word elevation means how high it is, doesn't it?
Well, it's specifically though, Nathan, above mean sea level.
No.
Elevation.
You see, Adam's got there. Go on, Adam.
There's two ways of describing the angle when you using a sextant. It's based on your orientation of what you're doing. So the elevation angle refers to the orientation of the measurement. So from 0 up to 90 would be an elevation angle. Whereas if you're on a plane, then the depression angle would be described like that. So you'd say it's either an elevation or a depression angle, depending on the viewer's point of view of what he's measuring. He was measuring down. So it's a confirmation of the orientation of the measurement, that it goes from sea level, as Brian said, up to the sky, as opposed to a depression angle. Is that
Perfect.
clear?
Perfect.
But
I wanted to...
it's the word elevation, and specifically, you asked about elevation, Nathan. Elevation
yes.
is height above mean sea level. That's what it is.
No, I agree. But I'm leading us to an understanding as a flat Earth audience. Let's be honest, there's no globus here. So we're just advancing our own understandings of how their arguments are played out in real time when they're here arguing, or leaving them in comments, or whatever means they're using to disseminate this idea that we suddenly have to justify the height and are asked for it. Now, there's two aspects to that in rebuttal. The first is that your height you do ascribe with actual values to physical distances is thrown out the window the moment you do celestial navigation. If we beg the question of an angle that you can't acquire being acquired and then used off a sphere that's then going to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, so it matches up with the celestial sphere model. If we give you all of that, so they're going to throw out their distances. They're going to become infinite. Brian, just back me up, just so the audience doesn't think I'm making it up.
What do you want me to say?
Yeah, their distances to the stars become infinite.
Oh yeah, well that's because they have to be for the heliocentric model. They use the two-way spatial light, so
in the first instance, in rebuttal, well, what your distances, bearing in mind you do claim distance, you don't have. Now, when it comes to us, specifically us on here now, sorry, Discord, can't talk for all of you, on G+, we understand that there is no requirement for the elevation when acquiring an angle above 0 up to 90 degrees. That has nothing to do with, I'll rephrase the term, height. We all appreciate that, don't we? Please say yes.
Yeah. I get what you're saying now.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. So just the second part of the rebuttal is to say that we don't require it. And this is an exercise in understanding why elevation isn't intrinsically a requirement that we, even though it's not our claim, it's just how celestial navigation's done, we need the height when we're charged with it. Number one, it isn't required in celestial navigation. Not a flat Earth claim, just a process that is done to this day. And secondly, you, with your claims that we don't make to parallel, we don't claim the height here specifically. If you're one of those guys out there saying it's an XY distance, that's not my problem. Here you'll learn different. But yeah, the second is we don't claim a height, and we don't need to if we were performing this method that proves a flat Earth. That would be celestial navigation.
There is no height, but I'm going to grasp the point you're trying to clarify here. When we say take an elevation angle, what we often think is what height is it elevated to? This is not what's happening. The elevation height is the same. Or there's an assumption within celestial navigation that the height is maintained the same. So when we're referring to an elevation angle, we're not actually interested in the height. We're interested in just measuring the angle and the co-angle so that we get positions in time from that of the celestials that we're measuring. So there is no distance per se in any of the trigonometric functions that are needed for us to obtain. We obtain distances in terms of straight line distances between GPs and U from the celestial navigation, from the co-angle. So to assume that there's any height in there, it's actually the complete opposite. You assume the height is arbitrary because the solution to the trigonometry is resolved by a celestial navigation with the co-angle. There's no need for a side length.
I love it when we're of like minds. Adam's done my job for me. Perfect, Adam, absolutely perfect. But the bit I wanted to stress in that was the flat roof assumption. And that's why presumably Brian's about to pipe up. Maybe I'm wrong. Can I, just before you do though, Brian, keep hold of that thought. Shout out with my extra long chat that I haven't going to miss a damn thing. Yay. Mr. Gadget says housekeeping in quotes, but no one can join the voice chat. You can. So if the voice chat's full, join the live stream queue and I'll move you in. But by the looks of things, it's not actually full. And I can do this all while I'm talking to you without moving any tabs. Yay! I'm so excited for my new screen. Thank you very much for the super chat, Mr. Gadget. It says housekeeping, but no one can join the voice chat. Now I've reread it, I think what you mean is no one's joining the voice chat from the ball side. I'm just going to read between the lines because you're giving me money to say it, so I'm going to assume it's positive. Shout out to Godzilla. If this super chat goes unnoticed, then it's flat. But if it's red, I'll be shocked. But it's still flat. Thanks for the super chat. I've got a really long chat feed now, Godzilla, so I shouldn't hope to miss any.
What's better is you can actually read it.
I can actually read it slightly better than... It is slightly bigger text, I'm sure of it now. I'm reading it off because you can hear me stammering and stuttering a lot less. Thank you very much, both of you, for the super chats. That would be Godzilla37 and Mr. Gadget. Really appreciate the support and sincerity. Brian, have you managed to keep hold of that thought, hopefully, in regards to flat roofs?
Well, yeah, I actually was going to talk about the elevation. Well, what I was going to say is that the elevation angle is only ever described, well, obviously, the angle part says it, but it's only ever described in degrees and derivations of degrees. It's never ever described, an elevation angle is never described in feet and inches or miles. The elevation angle is used as horizontal distance measurement along the surface of Earth. The angle itself is only ever described in degrees. There is no miles, feet, inches height given to that angle. There's a big disconnect on our opposing side as to what an elevation angle is as opposed to an angular size measurement. An angular size measurement, you use the internals of the angle. And you can make an angular size measurement of a table or of a house, and it would be the same angle. They could both be 40 degrees. It just depends on your distance from the object, and whether you know its actual height before you start and different things. If you know its actual distance or its actual height, blah, blah, blah. But an elevation angle is only ever described in degrees and derivations of degrees. And from that, you then obviously have your secondary zenith angle, which then is what you're talking about, Nathan, the roof, which becomes the roof of your elevation angle. And that roof length will be measured in minutes of degree, and it will then be transferred from minutes of degree straight down, one for one, as nautical miles along the surface of Earth. So there's only a horizontal nautical mile distance measurement in the end. There is no feet and inches vertical measurement at all at any time when you're doing celestial navigation. There is no angular size measurements taking place of the celestial bodies. Maybe of lighthouses and different things, but not of the celestial bodies. Finished.
Perfect. I'm trying to send an image via Skype, but it just doesn't seem to want to upload of my guy sat at the middle of a protractor with the flat roof and the sun moving over the top with various angle measurements to it. But I can't put it up. So there we go. Wow, there is 157 people watching. I've just noticed we're only 7 minutes... slightly lost for words. Only 17 minutes in, over 150 people watching. Wow, that's fantastic. I've no idea why. Brilliant. Thank you for tuning in. Maybe people in the live stream chat have shared the show. Very warm welcome to all of you if you've just joined us. Please share the show if you haven't shared it already. You've probably only joined because somebody shared. Somebody bigger shared.
Can I interject a thought here?
Shout out to all the live people watching. Welcome to Flat Earth. Snacks in the back.
I think it's the mafia genre.
Let's ask a couple more housekeeping questions. Any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere-edge horizon that's formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
We lost that technology, and it's a painful process to bring that back to.
We did actually do
It only exists in the math. Thanks, Rampus.
I was going to link it to the discussion in the pre-show. So there was, I just don't often highlight it, and still therefore is, a disconnect with people who associate what you see at ground level in the form of the horizon being Earth curve and its obstruction of things into the distance with its physical elements, aka it's like a hill, getting in the way of stuff beyond the hill. That's what Earth curve's asserted to be. And you qualify it in Muppet vision, that's seeing the side of your own head and the target on the same page, and the target not changing in angular size, that's perspective, remaining the same feet and inches value at any distance. Well, when you've got those aspects combined, people see the horizon as that occultation and nothing more. But then, when you stick them in a different point of view, i.e. up at altitude, they will then have a minor alteration to their reification of the horizon and think it's literally how the ball is represented. That would be to say that the horizon you see, being the edge of the sphere, is going to curve in your field of view from left to right. And that's a very different type of perception in terms of how they think the Earth curve is. And it always, Mr. Sensible was the most recent to do this in one of my comments. So he came along and started babbling on about his mage that he sent up, this balloon, and talking about Earth curve. And you're like, hello? That's the exact same physical geometric sphere edge horizon that we debunked in 2020 with the Black Swan. It doesn't suddenly become a physical limitation to your view that bends at altitude. It's just exactly the same horizon. We debunked it as a physical limitation to your view. It's not Earth curve, regardless of if you go up in a hot air balloon. Or space.
They can't
as well,
handle the Black Swan.
I think the disconnect with that is that then, well, when you tell a regular person like boats are going over the horizon, that's something they have to envision, right? They're not actually seeing that. You don't ever actually see that, but that's what they have to have in their mind to make the ball make sense. But once you take it out of that and you put it into some CGI crap where now you're seeing curve, well, now it's no longer imagination. You just say, hey, look, there it is. And that's it. It's that simple. So they've taken it away from the imagination, and they're just giving you some CGI that you could just point to and say, look, there it is. There's the curve.
Technically a donation, but Moop upgraded his membership to Unicorn. Well, thank you very much. There is absolutely no incentive to do so, but it gives me money. So I really appreciate your support, Moop. Thank you very much indeed for becoming a unicorn.
Well, how could he be a unicorn if they don't exist?
Chocolate, they say that's evidence of curvature. They never say curvature, but they say evidence of curvature of both falling over the horizon.
Isn't that funny that they say that when you ask them where it is and they can't show it, but then when they can show it, when they're showing some CGI crap, all of a sudden it becomes the curvature and not the evidence of curvature that we can only get when they say that all the time, right? Because they always say, oh, we never see the curvature. We can only see the evidence of it. Well, then what happens when you see it? No longer just the evidence, now you see it. They can't even keep their story straight. It's ridiculous.
Meanwhile, we only have one horizon. The horizon in the Begging the Question Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve Calculator is a physical limitation to your view that formerly blocked boats and buildings. It's the edge. It's your Earth curve edge that the boats fall over. That's right, Globe Believers. You're the ones with an edge, and you're the ones with boats falling over it, to the point where you literally mathematically qualify how much of a boat has fallen over your crazy edge. And we've debunked the horizon as being that edge and physical, to the point where the Globe respondents tell us we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. It only exists in the maths.
Isn't that funny how they gave us an edge, though, and they made a big joke about it?
We can, Mr. Scratchy Mike, I can hear whatever it is you're scraping your mic along while you're talking. They gave us an edge because they take the weakest elements of their own argument for a globe. That would be that we have a physical geometric hill in the way, known as the horizon, also called Earth curve, until 2020. And they project those weak-ass arguments onto us at the feast of nonsense that we all arrive at. So you get through the door, wow, we've been lied to, the Earth's not a sphere. What's this table labelled Flat Earth? It says have a seat and eat as much as you like. What's this? Let's gobble away on all this crap that's lying around at the feast of nonsense. One of the things is going to be this model, like a pizza pie, flying up through a sky vacuum with an edge and a boat falling off it. You and your now belief is this. You understand? Gobble it down. Make sure you vomit it up when the next globe believer comes and asks you about your new faith.
I must admit, I was at that table in the beginning. Nicholson, Morley, all
We
of that
all were.
stuff. Ether.
Nate, it's
I
like let he who cast the first stone and all that. Raise your hand if you didn't gobble down at least 20 courses at the Feast of Nonsense when you came to Flat Earth. Hands up.
I'm putting my hand up right now.
You were the one putting out the nonsense. You were the one serving it.
Yeah. Rectangular looper.
What? I brought forth the holographic non-local sun.
Point made. Point proven. First breath. Yep, that's right. You were the one serving up some of that nonsense. What you were saying, Arwin, was even worse. You were like, check it out. Look at all this catering being done at the Feast of Nonsense. I want that gig.
Yeah, but not that gig, though.
You not only wanted that gig, you wanted paying millions for the quality of your gourmet dishes at the Feast of Nonsense. Don't beat bandy words with me. I know what happened. I was there.
Yeah, so was I. And I remember exactly what happened. And I didn't buy all these presuppositions of objects.
No, I didn't say you
over a
bought
disk.
them. I didn't say you scoffed them. I said you tried to serve more. You saw how much nonsense there was to consume. You recognised it as nonsense. Fair play, the question was hands up who didn't gobble it. But I was smart enough to realise I can peddle this nonsense just like they can. The mistake you made was you started demanding that the caterers paid you.
I didn't gobble that shit down. I simply sought an alternative, and I presented it even before I had my own channel.
Holy crap, over 200 people watching. That hasn't been the case for about 2 weeks. When was the last over 200 people watching?
It's because I shared the show on my show.
It's the mafia genre.
There hasn't been 200 people watching for more than 2 years. So when did COVID happen? Was it late 2019?
Correct.
Dude,
That was when
2020,
that was
yeah.
when the viewers last hit over 200 before COVID. Woohoo! Over 200 people watching. Woohoo! Please share the show.
It's the power of
All more
money.
hours.
Massive. Thanks, guys.
I'd like to have a confirmation that I didn't gobble down the bullshit when it was first presented, Nathan.
No, I will agree. There's a good reason why you're on the panel, Arwin. You're not stupid. We all know how smart you are. You don't need me to kiss your ass or blow smoke up your ass. We know. I already conceded, just in a subtle way, that I didn't have to labour, but you obviously want that, so I'll give it you. Yeah, okay. Arwin, and I recognise this pretty much immediately, not only recognised the nonsense, saw an opportunity in that nonsense. So it was a bad example asking you to raise your hands. You raised it first, and I'll grant you. You're right. You didn't gobble down all the nonsense. There was a certain amount of nonsense, but I did qualify like who didn't gobble down 10 dishes.
Well,
you're not going to deny that there was a certain amount.
I had a whole bunch of nonsense inside of my head that I was trying to figure out. Remember the things that I was terrified about at first? I was dealing with that.
I get it. You were pioneering yourself in nonsense that hadn't even happened yet. So before this current vibe, and it's one of the reasons I get pissed about it, right? Is because you and I, Arwin, we've been there, done that. Go back and check out Arwin and I discussing basically mud flood and giants. And what was the other subject that was rolled in there? I forget. I think it was
Trees.
no trees.
No way.
Me and Arwin were
Right.
discussing that before it even happened. Because we were interested in it as a new subject. And this is in 2016.
This is what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Right? I've been to the buffet, right? But you have to go to the buffet and taste it. And it's not until you get further in and respect to your ear that you develop a palate for what real science is and how important that is. And that takes time. So you will chow down on some crap early on as you get into this. Hopefully your palate refines.
I don't know.
And you
As soon as they started throwing in, like, it's this, of course, right? That type of sentence is just immediate allergic response. So it's like, I might take a bite, but as soon as my teeth hit it, it's like, no, thanks.
then
Nah,
you have better
the most I did was
discernment
take a
than
whiff.
No,
I didn't bite any of that shit. There's a lot of that shit I didn't bite at all.
Just got to make a quick note. Sorry, there's 250 people watching.
Sorry, dude.
No, I'm just overjoyed that there's so many people watching. I don't know what's happened. Either somebody far more popularised tweeted out that the show's on, because I've suggested, as I do every single show, that you share it. But just pick numbers. That's good numbers for me. That's, you know, right up against the absolute maximum I've ever reached. I mean, I got up to about 300 pre-COVID at some stage, or maybe even slightly beyond. But there or thereabouts. I'll have to check on my buttons, because I used to have buttons on my Stream Deck that would thank the number of people, and I think it got up to... I'll actually do that now. I'll check it, because I can tell you exactly where the limit... Because I kept on adding on, like, wow, 300 people watching, etc. More chat. Here we go. And now it must have gone past 350 then, because I've got a wow, 400 people watching, which tends to be indicative of, okay, I've got to 350, I better add the next number up. So I think I must have got to 350 as the absolute maximum. Anyway, this is boring for anybody watching, going, yeah, I came here to not be praised for adding your numbers.
Yeah, it's all because I shared your show at the end of my show on the platform that shall not be named. Because I had a really good show. Very explaining the Black Swan argument, and there was a whole bunch of people in there too. So
okay, you can mention any platform you like. What you can't do is direct people to go to it when they're on YouTube. YouTube want to retain their audience. They want you to stay on their website. So if you say, I'm not saying this, but if you say go to DLive now, you're suggesting that they leave this platform, which is obviously against their terms of service. Anyway, boring as that may be, let's do a bit more housekeeping. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope.
You're going to need that for that.
Reference frames are ruined. Conservation of stationary momentum.
Conservation of stationary momentum?
Yeah, he's still serving that food at that table, obviously.
That's why he's here. We love Arwin.
I'm actually making
really
lunch
good
right now.
Sorry, I was going to say, what you've done there is you've took their nasty food and repackaged it for them.
There is no evidence of axial rotation. If we were on a rotating body, then the airplanes that fly in a direct straight line over our heads would appear to take a curved path. They don't. That is the end of that.
Yeah, they do. I see a
times
plane come from the
optimal.
horizon, and then I have to literally crane my neck as it goes over the top of me and look up to see it, and then it goes down towards the other horizon. You're telling me that's not a curve?
No, you would see a curved path in the sky. That's perspective. The path would be curved in the sky. It wouldn't go straight from the horizon up over your head and appear to go up from the horizon up over your head and then appear to go back down to zero.
I'll let you off. I'll let you off the hook because you did drop the word appearing. That's what I was waiting for. Yeah, appears. Yes, that's right. Appears. It would appear to take a curved path if there was a Coriolis deflection to be observed from the ground as you turn beneath the plane. It wouldn't be an actual curve. It would just look like it because you'd turn beneath it on a turning Earth. Obviously, if that was the case, for us to be turning underneath a plane, it means Earth's turning under planes. And runways are turning under planes as they come into land. Yeah, that's a big problem that they don't have to deal with.
Nathan, you just don't understand Coriolis.
You tell
Nathan.
navigators not to consider the Earth flat and stationary.
But I said in my original, when I said originally that this plane is taking a straight path, and did I not say it appears to take a curve, or did I just say, did I not use the word appears when I first
No,
said
you
it?
did. You did. You're good.
All right.
Take it easy, killer.
It's apparent. The deflection in Coriolis is apparent. That would be to say it appears but isn't actual. You turn underneath something, look at it, and it looks like it curves. Well, that's apparent as opposed to actual deflection. This is why Wolfie 6020 was held over a barrel recently, because he's claiming that he has to correct for Coriolis drift. Well, Coriolis drift is a not actual deflection observed as you turn beneath something. So with the roundabout, it's exampled by a ball thrown over the top of a roundabout. As you spin beneath the ball, you observe it seem to curve. But do you suddenly say, oh no, I better tell the ball to correct for it? It's like the ball isn't doing anything. It's just being tossed in a straight path over the top of your head as you turn beneath it. So while it might seem like it curves, it doesn't. Likewise, While it might seem like a plane takes a curved path as you look at it through the air, it doesn't. It's not actual deflection, certainly not something that you'd need to radio into ground control because you're on a roundabout. I'm looking at an aeroplane, it looks like it's curving because I'm a bloody kid's roundabout. Can you tell the pilot to correct for it? Well, Wolfie thinks he needs to because he doesn't understand Coriolis deflection.
Nathan, the consensus mind control is the problem. They say we have curvature, but none of us have ever seen it, but we have to believe it's there. And then they say that the sun is really far away and the sunlight comes in parallel. But every time we go out and you see it breaking through the clouds, it's divergent. So the mind control of their model says, no, there's curve, sunlight is parallel, but we don't see it. We see the opposite. And now we got axial rotation. Well, none of us experientially can prove the Earth is moving. In fact, we don't feel any movement. And as Brian said, it's just very simple. And just like the show always says, if the Earth is moving, then the flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA would be an hour and a half, but it takes 4.5. So the Earth is now moving toward Charlotte. It's all anchors in the mind of consensus pseudoscience that everyone has bought. And then when someone says, I don't think we live on a ball. Oh, you going against science. But it's really they're the ones who've been poisoned by consensus pseudoscience.
Shout out to Eric McNearney. Hope I'm saying your name right. Hi, Nathan, and all. It's been a long time. Glad to see you're all going strong. Thank you very much. As usual, few Globers willing to debate, I see. Smiley face. Indeedy. I have no issue with that whatsoever. Very, very educational shows when it's not bombarded with Globe believers. Let's have a quick glance at the Discord server and see if I've missed anybody that might need unmuting. I don't think so. No, thank you very much indeed for the support. Really appreciate it. Any evidence of the R value? That'd be Earth radius.
It requires a flat plane to calculate.
Indeedy.
Black Swan.
Only exists in the
value?
maths.
Say again, 10th, then George.
I said, what R value?
That was just answered by, I believe, chocolate. You're going to need a flat plane for that. Go ahead, George.
It only exists in the maths. Thanks, Rampers.
That's not strictly true anymore either. I know we've said that a long...
How long are you doing the housekeeping questions, Nathan?
I don't know, Neil. That violates the celestial sphere model, Jorge. Go on, Matt.
So I'm looking at the different forms of evidence, and like circumstantial evidence is one of them. And I was wondering, as it regards to the housekeeping question on the evidence of the distance to the sun, and even though circumstantial evidence is a weak form of evidence, it's still evidence nonetheless when we're talking about the diverging rays.
What about them?
What?
Wouldn't it be a circumstantial evidence as to the distance? Since the housekeeping question is there any evidence?
Just you tell us how, and then we'll tell you if it is or isn't.
Well, the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm just wondering if that is, even though it would be like circumstantial evidence from my circumstances, when I see these diverging rays, I can calculate a distance.
Are you talking?
I'd like Brian to answer. I know Brian's got the right answer to this already in terms of calculating heights based on this calculation. Go ahead, Brian. And before you do, shout out to Flatten the Curve, who says, "Hey, Wolfie, stop hiding behind your globe and come debate me." Thank you very much for the super chat, Flatten the Curve. Really appreciate the support. Go ahead, Brian.
Of the height of the sun? We're using the rays, the divergence of the rays. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, he is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can't triangulate. Like, the problem with that is that the sun is going to be in different positions according to you. at different times. I don't know if you can get it. Like, if you do it, how do you prove it? Do you know what I mean? It's like not like doing it with a mountain where you can then prove it.
Well, you can't.
I'm probably not explaining this.
You have to track it down.
Can you?
Hold on, Adam's having a bash. Go ahead, Adam.
Moving.
Okay, so you can't get a measurement per se, whether that be a ray or whatever, because you can't measure to a ray, can you? So all you can do is look at. I think this is what you say in circumstances. Look at it objectively, and say to yourself, are those rays parallel, and therefore possibly any distance could be applicable, or are they diverging, as I look at them, therefore converging to a point source, and looking at that rate of convergence, could that be 93 million miles away, or is it more likely to be a closer thing? You could apply logic to that situation to make a logical conclusion, but that would be old. There's no...
Well, it would be more like a logical exclusion because it doesn't actually prove a location in the end.
Can I ask a question to the panel then?
Yeah.
So if the sunlight is coming in parallel, as they say, how would you get the GP of the sun? I mean, the GP would be miles and miles across. Anywhere inside of that GP, you'll have the sun above your head. So
that's why I call it
this
the
already
super
proves that the
GP.
sun needs to be local and the rays needs to be divergent.
Spot on. Do you want to
George.
hold on just before you back him up, Chocolate? Do you want to just repeat that one more time, Jorge? Absolutely spot on.
The sun rays cannot be parallel. 'Cause that would give you a GP to the sun to be miles and miles across. The sun rays need to be divergent, and the sun needs to be local. That's why
Perfect.
the elevation angle, I would say, is a good way to do it.
Right, now Chocolate, Super GP, go ahead.
Yeah, so by that, in that circumstance, right, the sun, basically half the Earth is covered by the sun, right, in their model. So that would be the GP of the sun, would be half the Earth. That's why I call it a super GP, because what you're saying is absolutely right. It can't be parallel, because then the entire GP is the entire half of the Earth that's covered by the sun. That's insanity.
That checks out.
And furthermore, you can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline if you're asserting that the light comes in to the Earth parallel with your super GP massive. Well, how are you going to get a baseline?
Yep.
Yeah, the whole thing falls apart because they actually have positions for both sides. They're saying the sun rays come in parallel, and when they hit a curved surface, that's how we get our shadows and angles. In reality, the instrument used is a sextant or theodolite or any one of these things, and you can't get an angle from a curved surface. So they die right there on that one. So they take it to the equatorial plane and say, well, we're really getting the angle from a cutout of the center of the Earth, so it's flat where we're actually measuring it. But you're not actually measuring it from the center of the Earth. That's a mathematical gameplay that they do. The other part is they say the sun is really far away, okay, but then but it can't do divergent rays, as we see, if it's really far away. So they're stuck.
Okay, so just confirm for me in the chat, I'm not seeing 100 or 1.4 thousand likes.
Yeah.
There's got to be an issue. It seems unusual. Nobody's saying in the chat, oh yeah, I came from this link on Twitter, or I came because this person shared it on Facebook. And the chat typically looks about this speed. So, I don't know, there's probably an issue with YouTube. 290 viewers, considering the speed of the chat, seems higher than it should be. And Anthony saying that there's a load of likes, that sounds like a YouTube issue, doesn't it? I'm probably celebrating 290 viewers that aren't real or are an issue.
Or the viewing limiter has been turned off by accident through the latest update.
Oh, right. What you're saying is I typically get this number of viewers, and to make it seem less popular, you're such a conspiratard.
Yeah, I was thinking you've got like
That's a good conspiracy, though. I like that.
5,000 viewers, 1.6 thousand likes, but YouTube's running your figures down, so it only telling you there's only 291, but there's thousands watching because you got 1.7 thousand likes.
I have heard it all. I've heard that before. I just don't think it's true. The reason I don't think it's true, I think if you were to suggest, rather than what you're getting is being concealed, I don't buy that. If you were to say, okay, they're limiting the amount of people that will come to watch, I'd be more likely to buy it if you had some evidence to back it. But ultimately, the statistics that I use to keep track of where I'm at in my work or on YouTube, boring as this may be, is something that they sell to businesses. And if you're paying for the advertising that I'm watching the statistics for on my own channel, then you're going to have pretty shit accountants that are going to make damn sure YouTube aren't ripping you off with the stats. So I actually do trust my stats. So I don't think a lot of what people say about YouTube and their just the crap people come out with, like we've just done, or you, not me, have just done.
It'll get corrected tomorrow.
I think you underestimate how many people, even in different languages, that listen to this, because like my girlfriends because she goes into different chats, and she tells me that a lot of people watch the show based on what she sees them talking about in those chats, and they're Spanish speaking chats. I mean, she was like, wow, a lot of people watch this.
I agree, but it's just not like necessarily live viewers, because when I see a number like that, 296 viewers, I expect my chat to go at a lick, and I also expect somebody in the chat to say, I came where I wouldn't have normally because of X. Nobody has said that in the chat. So it just looks like, and you could tell by my surprise, I'm surprised at that number. Well, I know there's a lot of people that watch the show. The channel, Nathan Oakley 1980, gets 100,000 views a month. Sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less, but on average, at the moment, that's how many views it gets, which means there's a lot of people watching these shows, because that's all I put out. This is what we do here, right, on this channel. You might get occasional videos about a new monitor, but they're not the bulk of the views. You might get 300 or 400 views for a video like that. But the rest of them is all this content. So yeah, a lot of people do watch the show, but not necessarily live, all at once, all in the chat, chatting away. And like I say, if I see 300, there's now 300 plus people watching, I'd expect the chat to be going quicker. So I think it's an anomaly, or go on.
There's been an accusation. Tony's addressed it. He's figured it out, I think. 1 o'clock saying which one of you is buying Nathan views and likes, but yeah, Sleeping Warrior. He's blaming Ranty. So
blaming Ranty. Oh God! Don't let this open the floodgates to conspiracy. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
That would be tough for the definition of gas pressure. That'd be a tough cookie to solve.
Considering you need a container to establish a vacuum, it's self-evident.
Right.
You're going to need at least 3 containers, I would say.
You're going to need a container for that.
If you look at how a vacuum is defined, it's a lack of gas pressure. So the only way to show a lack of gas pressure would be to remove it within a container, or to have a situation where there is a massive differential within a container. There is no other way to show a vacuum or create a vacuum. It requires a container, just like temperature and gas pressure.
Lamal Forever from the chat says, they want to remain anonymous. Well, that's a possibility. I can see that in the stats, Lamal. In other words, if they've come via a service that doesn't necessarily invite people to chat, like smart TV services, I can see that. In other words, there's a limitation to people to increase the chat rate, but my typical chat rate is about 14 chats per minute, I think, and that's what it's at now. So that's a typical chat rate. But if I go in and see, okay, yes, somebody's managed to get it advertised, or it's managed to hit a Netflix style, smart TV presentation for YouTube, then that might be the case. But I can't tell now. I'll have to look at the stats after the fact. But it does seem strange that it's now at 18. I'd expect it to be 10%. So if I've got 300 people watching, I'd expect the chat rate to be 30 as opposed to 18. Now, 18 indicates it should be at 180 people watching, which is higher than usual anyway. So it might be something like that. There might be somebody who's shared it on a platform that doesn't necessarily increase the chat frequency.
Is this empirical evidence or mathematical that you're?
It's just intriguing. I mean, we do this show daily, so when weird things happen on the show, it is more than I'm more than content to talk about them because number one, it generates. I know my audience and I know my panel, and it generates an interesting discussion with a lot of conspiracy around it, which is fine. But I can interweave a few housekeeping questions. I can ask if there's any scientific evidence of gravity while you lot are talking about, you know, what might be the cause of the high viewing figures today.
I told you what it is. I shared you with the mob genre.
So we've got the mafias watching and in university friends as the reason.
Correct. It's a mob. You get it? Mob?
Perfect tumbleweeds. Thank you, panel. Well, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet. They could, but they don't. Because they like to stick to their fictional medium, and that doesn't work.
What do you mean they could? You said this yesterday. How?
Well, by stepping outside of their field and just making a valid hypothesis.
Yeah, but the question is concerning their field, not outside of their field.
Good point. Well, they could start from scratch with a more sensible approach of astronomy and then make a viable hypothesis somehow.
And what would that be?
I don't know.
Well, how could they even have one?
They can't.
Well, how do you know? Maybe they'll figure out a way to vary and manipulate the celestial light.
Like I said, impossible.
What if they do?
You mean the one that hangs over the baby crib? That one, the model of it?
No.
Oh,
I mean the actual lights there.
Yeah. So how are they going to manipulate the sun?
I don't know. I'm not saying that they're going to manipulate the sun just like that without some devastating consequence, but they might be able to manipulate stars, right? There's already these weird little things out there about shooting lasers at the sky and then somehow creating stars and all these things. So who knows?
I mean, what Arwen is saying checks out because apparently they sent a dune buggy to the moon. Right?
No,
pause.
No, don't straw man me. I'm not talking heliocentrism. I'm talking actual stars.
What about
what they really are?
Not shy, Arwen.
What about the eclipses? Isn't that the claim? Eclipses as proof of through hypothesis, whatever they call it. Not that it's true, but they claim eclipses what they are.
Okay,
let's
what did they vary and manipulate?
Yeah, Owen's got that ready. Go ahead, you beat me to it.
What are they vary and manipulating about the eclipse in order to establish
not the
a
eclipse.
cause and effect?
Stop. The eclipse is the phenomena being observed. They're not going to vary and manipulate it. They're going to try and attempt to vary something to cause it. So what would be the independent variable? If they're claiming the eclipse is the phenomena, that would be dependent variable. What's their claimed cause, and what did they vary to cause it? Now, bearing in mind that they claim the turn of the Earth and the orbital motion is the cause, you'll have a job varying and manipulating that. Begging the question fallacy.
Or they'd have to install rockets on the moon to push it in front of the sun or away from the sun, and then they can vary and manipulate it. Requires a little work, though.
Push what?
You can't vary and manipulate their assumptions within the heliocentric model of this phenomena. Their claimed cause and they very much do have a cause and effect relationship asserted in this regard, is not validated and debunked because it violates the celestial sphere model and requires a flat plane to acquire elevation angle measurements to Polaris for dual radii to give you a radius value to insert into Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion. That would be orbital mechanics. Well, to get there, you need a flat plane. So this whole thing is nonsense.
Okay, that might be a little bit of an obstruction, for sure.
A little bit. I couldn't have been more concise. It's a massive roadblock.
No, I'm being sarcastic here.
Oh, my bad.
You are going to need R for that as well.
And where are you going to get
Nathan,
R? Where are you going to get R? Any evidence of the R value? That's Earth radius.
You can only
Negative.
calculate it based on a flat plane.
Well, that means you're on a flat plane.
Nathan, there's a note by Level. Apparently, there's people in Discord who want to speak, need to be unmuted.
Oh, my bad.
I really like the Alberuni story now.
Okay, everyone's off mute in Discord if you wanted to add something. Who was it that wanted to add something? This is not that tumbleweed moment that was humorous with Neil. Maybe
What do you
I'll
mean?
just take over then. I'll just take it. So I'd like to hear the Alberuni story again, how we used a flat plane to measure the height of a mountain, to go onto the mountain, and then presuppose that the horizon is geometric in order to establish the radius value.
You just told it. That was a really good, concise rendition of Alberuni measuring the height of a mountain off a flat plane by using the law of sines and moving back away from it and comparing the difference to give him the height, then going up the height measured off a flat plane and assuming the height measured off a flat plane is now invalid because the flat surface he used to get the angle is now curving according to him, and he's measuring tangents to it rather than heights from it.
And of course,
I just love that
reapplying the
story
horizon as the leading of the ball.
I've done just one more time, Adam. Everyone else, 1 sec.
And of course, when he got to the top, he's met by a militarized black swan because he's about to reify the horizon now as the leading edge, a geometric consideration of a ball.
Was it the same militarized black swan that met Rufy recently?
It was.
The same exact one. Amazing. Man, that black swan's been alive for a long time.
Well, it needs to meet Virus. It hasn't met Virus yet because Virus said he did all of this.
No, that's amnesia.
Okay. There's a mob watching now.
Yeah, if anybody can indicate why, I mean, the 2,000 plus likes that I'm being told from the chat I've currently got on this particular stream tends to indicate there's an issue. But if there's still a slim chance that those 300 plus people watching right now are genuine, there is 20 plus chat rate. That's pretty high. I mean, the chat is now licking along.
I would give your chance a lot higher possibilities than rockets on the moon pushing it somewhere, that Arvin said.
Well, I think it was earlier on, Sleeping Warrior said words to the effect of, if you just took the numbers at face value, would that not be considered naive? Well, initially I did take the numbers at face value, because I do take YouTube numbers at face value. I trust the stats. However, that doesn't mean that it's infallible. It doesn't mean that there isn't occasionally glitches and errors, which I have personally seen on many occasions. And I think this is one of them. But by the same token, up until the point that people started pointing out the exorbitant amount of likes that the video has, which has happened before and just gets corrected after the fact, I wouldn't have questioned the numbers. I'd just say, woohoo, somebody shared my video, great. Thank you very much for sharing, like I normally do. But in this instance, I'm pretty sure there's just an issue. And I'm not going to praise numbers that I think are fake. In fact, it kind of annoys me. I want real stats.
You're welcome for sharing.
I don't think it is.
Hang on. Level says the people whining about being muted won't talk now.
Yeah, what happened? I thought they was complaining about that. They had a chance to speak and nobody spoke up. What's going on?
It might be that they weren't able to get into the chat. So for future reference, if you are watching this live, there's a live stream queue. So if there's 13, there's now 14 people in there. So presumably Paul has just joined because he's a mod and can. But if the if the chat stream is higher than it needs to be and you can't just join as a member of the public, we will still move you in. You just join the live stream queue, and that will get you in when I notice, which I may not, but hopefully I will, and then we'll chat to you. But yeah, often there's a mod in there that'll do that for me if I'm not paying attention. But yeah, so did we cover all the housekeeping? It'd be nice, assuming this has been a high viewership show, to actually get through them all. Did we miss any? Molten iron core. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
What do you mean? They use it when they do celestial navigation. They cut the Earth in half, and they take their measurements, so they should know what's in the center.
No, that's them using the celestial sphere model. So when they claim that they've got an angle from a curve, which they haven't, they take that angle that they haven't got from the curved surface to begin with, it was measured off a plane, and move it to the centre, because the sphere Earth in this instance is actually a protractor, and the bifurcated flat plane that runs through that 360-degree circle, aka protractor, is the flat plane we're actually standing on. Now, there was no need for that transposition from a surface that's curved that won't give you an angle to a flat plane with a celestial sphere above it. That would be a perspective view represented in orthographic view of what you will see of the sky. There's no need to go through any of that process. You just measure the angle.
Oh dear.
Was that the last housekeeping question? Are we going to round out housekeeping at the same time as the show? I'm sure I've missed one. Gas pressure without a container, we definitely did, didn't we?
Yeah, we did that.
I think you got them all, Nathan.
Yeah, we did that.
We did definitely cover them all. Perfect. Well, great show. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. But unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the super chat. I think someone actually did just hit the super chat just as we were ending. Sebastian Tallow, thank you very much for the super chat. It says, good morning, guys. I enjoy listening while I'm drinking my coffee. Great day to everyone. Well, thank you very much indeed for the super chat right at the end, just while I was rounding out. Sebastian Tallow, really do appreciate the support. Also, after the live show has ended, there's now a thanks button, which is great. I've turned that on in the last couple of days. So if you did want to support the show after the live show has ended and there isn't a super chat button, then you can hit the thanks button. Really appreciate anybody who does in advance of doing so. So thank you for hitting the thanks button if you have done so on this video. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching it on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Chatting, and if they couldn't super chat, they would then complain to YouTube. You know what I mean? That wouldn't happen. What's happening is the show is just not being advertised by YouTube. So Nathan might be getting a bit more people now than he was, but it's still being suppressed in that way, advertising.
What if people can't super chat? What if most of them watching don't have money?
Why are we talking about this?
No, I mean, you're going. The point I'm making is that you'd have double the super chats, Nathan, if you had double the audience.
I realise, but
or at least
that mentality, that psychology, my bad, leaves you with people like Ranty. Ranty's done it. Ranty changed sides because there was more money to be had. Now, recently, somebody, although I don't watch Ranty, said he had a really great stream or something to that effect, video with millions of views. You're like, great, more power to you. In the same way, I say the same thing for Craig or Simon Dan. If you're successful on YouTube, I'm jealous. Great, good for you. More power to you. If you can be successful, so can I. Now, I realise that's a little bit naive because of the arena we're in, but my sentiment doesn't change. You know, more power to you as a YouTuber. We might oppose each other in the subject matter. That doesn't mean I want to stop you being successful. And
that's the point, Nathan. It's no longer the success that has been achieved. Ironically, he's had to move subject matters again onto Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. That's where the massive 1 million and 10 million views came from. It's nothing to do with the subject matter anymore.
And maybe that's the idea. You know, if you're going to subtly suppress something, make it less profitable, make it more profitable to go onto the opponent's side, and then make it more profitable to go onto something completely different. Because then you're just stifling the people who do it. Now, that's been the case for 3.5 years. Since they made it absolutely explicitly clear what category we fit in. We are, quote unquote, fringe. That is what we are classified as. Yes, we can make money. No, we are not censored. But I know what we are, and it doesn't fuss me. What I do have to do as a result, and it might get me some flack from my opponents, is e-beg a lot. That's what I have to do as a result. That's how I counteract it. And I'm very grateful that the people on this side tend to be more, I don't mean this in a negative or positive way, religious and kind and supportive. Well, that might be the case in one or two of those aspects, but not necessarily all three most of the time, which is what I get from my audience. I have an exceptionally supportive, kind and generous audience, and it's the only reason I can continue what I'm doing. And I hope it's because they recognise, not just because I e-beg a lot, that that is the case with the channel. I'm never going to make it a commercial success through promotion via YouTube because it's fringe. They've told me and everybody in the world, we're not going to do that for you. They go, okay, I'll have to use the other tools they give me, and they give me loads. The thanks button, I'm elated with that. I've been counting the days till I could get it. Because, you know, keeping a show out constantly is the only way to have a button that you can donate to my show with. Well, if it's on every video all the time, it's like, wow, great. That means that if someone comes along and they watch my video, which is the majority of them, not live, and go, I like that, I'll give that money. They might listen to this little rant now and go, I totally understand it. You're never going to make 1 million views out of these daily shows because they're not reaching the people that you'd want to get it to that level with. You will if it's discussing a subject matter like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, maybe, if you're not already categorised as fringe and assumed that even if you're covering that, you're still fringe anyway. But, you know...
Is there a disclaimer? Is there a disclaimer under Amber Heard and Johnny Depp that it's archaic?
No.
No. But it's a temporary thing, right? We have a daily show. That means it's always there. You're never going to get like a millions crowd if you have a everyday thing, right? Because they'll be like, but yeah, you can always tune in, right? Well, if it's an event that's a one-time thing that gets all the attention, then you will get that crowd because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to them, right? It's very different.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
No, it's a totally good point. But
I just think.
Do you want to hold on? Just to speak to Armin's point. What the difference is very specific, and it's something that I absolutely desired in wanting to be a YouTuber, and it's something that's uber rare, and that's an evergreen subject matter. Is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard an evergreen subject matter?
No, it's getting kind of brown.
It's getting kind of stale already, and the trial hasn't even ended.
Fair enough.
You see, the thing about that is that when you open up Google or YouTube or Yahoo or whatever, Bing, any of these things, you don't find the Nathan Oakley flat out debate as one of the news headlines there. You do find Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. And when that has petered out, as it's starting to do, there'll be another subject there. And if you're doing the likes of what Ranty is doing, then you're going to have to cover that subject, whether you like it or not, or interested or not. And so it's like, yeah, you can YouTube that way, and yeah, you will get a lot.
You
will get
Eli.
a lot. Yeah, you will get a lot of views, but it will be for that particular subject, and it'll be a flash subject, I call it, because in a year's time, when that is finished, most people will have forgotten it simply because there's a new subject. Whereas what you do is evergreen, Nathan, because it is something that's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing discovery. So it's building all the time. So it's not going to be a flash subject. But at the same time, it's not going to be, well, at present, it's not turning up on Google News.
But it was.
You know?
But it was a flash subject. And do you know when it was? Now, I don't mean in terms of time. I mean in terms of, we discussed this on the live show and what was happening when it was. Have as much as you like of this subject on YouTube.
Yeah.
Can you remember when it was?
2015.
Right, but what I mean by that is it was when the Feast of Nonsense was served first, right? It was when the buffet was opened.
Yeah. So ice walls and all this other stuff, yeah.
Right, so in that small window, there was a legitimate, you could say, oh, you're just here for the flash in the pan, this is new and exciting views that you'll get from this because YouTube are heavily promoting Flat Earth at the moment for whatever reason. You know, it's claimed by them to just be algorithmic, right? People are interested in it, so we'll promote it. And then, you know, Congress got involved. We've already discussed that, so let's not cover it again. But that was when the Feast of Nonsense was served, and most people gorged on it, and there was a quick buck to be made. But, you know, doing the deep dive research into, hold on a second, how is this subject to be genuinely approached, took a lot longer. And as it did, it got made fringe. Well, you then got a choice. You go, which one is more important to me? The money or the flat earth? If you want to keep it nice and black and white for people to analyse in that way. Well, for me, I was like, both are important. I can't just turn around and say I'm not going to cover that subject anymore. I'm very passionate about it. Now, I'm also passionate about YouTube, and I see it as an evergreen subject. Now, in anything that you do, if you start a business, you will always find it's difficult. And you will always find there's roadblocks that get in your way that you have to overcome. And how you overcome them and what you do to progress forward after you've overcome them is really all that matters. Now, there is obviously going to be rags to riches success stories where people go from something very small to something absolutely enormous in a very short space of time. And good for them. But that's not the majority of people. The majority of people have to work their ass off all day, every day, to try and make what they've picked to do work. Now I'm in that boat. Now, could I find next flash in the pan subject to be more successful with temporarily? Absolutely. But it wouldn't be something I would be passionate about. I could do computers, another evergreen subject which is oversaturated on YouTube to begin with, and maybe build our career and moan about how Linus has just got it made for him all day long if I was that way inclined. But I'm not that way inclined. You know, I like what I do. It may not be the most profitable thing in the world, but that's not the most important thing to me. Yes, I've got to keep my family fed. Yes, I've got to pay the rent and mortgage and all the rest of the other stuff that normal people have to pay. But liking what I do, being at home, working from home, that would be for nothing if I hated what I did. So I want to be passionate about the subject, like everyone here, unpaid, joins daily, equally, I'd hope I'm the most passionate person here. But that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Just want to say, like, Flat Earth is also a subject that you can learn so much about. It is like a full-on education, really, depending on how deep you're willing to go into the nitty-gritty, the mathematical, the argumentative, the academic, right? It's such a big field that it's also intellectually stimulating for a very prolonged time. I think that's also an important part for you, isn't it, Nathan?
Yeah, I love the subject. It keeps me interested. Every day I wake up with the same questions that are unanswered. Why is the sky blue was one of the first videos I ever made. When we talk about distance to the sun, it just, to me, is an elaboration on the exact same question. Suddenly, that before I qualify it, before I say it, that question represents the essence of the subject matter, the excitement of the subject matter. When you say, why is the sky blue, you can easily go to the heliocentric scattering description that they give you. And when they give it you, you accept it and move on with your life. But when you realise that everything about that model and therefore that description doesn't hold true anymore, suddenly something so basic, something that encompasses your entire view, not worldview, view, you don't know why it is the way it is anymore. That makes me excited. It makes me passionate about getting up in the morning, about walking to the park at 6 o'clock in the morning with one of my kids and taking them to the park and looking at the sun come up. Who's that? That's got to be Eli. Off mute.
Yeah. I was trying to jump in and I kept muting and unmuting. I'm sorry. I've been waiting like 5 minutes.
Go ahead, Eli.
Eli,
It was
go.
Arwin talking over you last time. Go ahead.
No. I was to what you were saying about the nicheness of this conversation. See, like the thing about it is there's something going on metaphysically. How can I word it? Like their tactics, the ideas, the way we come to conclusions, that's been hijacked too.
Right, the
And
argumentation techniques.
and so when we think of popularity, like something being popular is real, because obviously something could be a commodity really. But they've established a world where they create what's popular. So there are things that are genuinely popular, and there are things that are created to be popular. And so we're on platforms, whether we know it or not, because they're big enough to have the kind of reach that's unfathomable to us. So when there's a marketing campaign going on, everyone's talking about that thing because that's what's on the table in the market. It's because they put it there. They made it that way.
Right.
So like we're
Big
saying, like
corporation becomes
when the
their-
flat earth was very popular, it's because that was their time to, well, actually I don't really know, because it seemed like flat earth was pure. It's not even about flat earth. Everything seemed to be pure and conclusions seemed to be genuinely reached, which ultimately led to questions whether it been politically, whether it been about cosmology, all of these things. It just seemed to be a cacophony of questions about things that we took for granted, and everything got shut down across the board. But that shows us that things are only popular when they make them popular. Because people start talking about things that they don't know about. Like think about your family members and how many of them have expressed to you, "Oh, I don't care about politics." Because if you actually cared and you talk deeply about the subject, they don't want to go there. But all the time they can come to you about something that they think is their own idea, but you know it was just a headline. Because they're inundated with that stuff on TV. And it's popular and everyone's talking about it because they were inundated with it.
Because they relinquish their intellectual oversight to big tech. Because they can, right? First it starts with I Google everything. Then it starts with, wait, if I can Google everything, then I don't really have to know it. I can just Google everything. And that's when you become completely dependent intellectually on a big tech platform. And that's how you then become an automatic switch. And whenever the big tech platform needs to promote something, you do it because it tells you to do it.
Yeah, but what happened with this subject is a lot more simplistic than that. From how I see it, just what we were talking about a few minutes ago with Nathan. I couldn't get in then, but I'll say it now. I have to backtrack about 5 minutes. They expected this to be a flash subject, but it became a permanent subject. Or they could see it becoming a permanent subject. So that's why they had to change. That's why they were asked questions in Congress. That's why YouTube were asked questions in the Congress. What are you going to do about flat Earth? That's why they had to change their advertising and other things for the subject. So they didn't expect, they weren't aware. They just like, oh, this is popular now, let's put it out there, conspiracy theory. Then suddenly it became not a conspiracy theory. It became, to the general public, a possible truth. And that's when they had to do something, because they weren't expecting that. They were expecting it to be a flat subject that people joked about years later. And then we come back up again.
I don't know about that.
No, because how are they going to know any different? I mean, YouTube will start YouTube. You know,
Well,
they weren't expecting.
They probably hoped that the control opposition, like Flat Earth Society, was able to handle it and stave off the curiosity wave that would naturally come from opening up the Flat Earth, right? But it didn't.
No.
We completely broke through. Right. We just all completely enthusiastically broke through, and it didn't work. We caught on to little tricks before they could basically close it off again properly. And yeah, we've been just sitting there kind of out of their control for a long time now.
Okay, but don't we say that this has been
Neil,
your
mic, Neil, what's going on? It's just so grating.
Sorry, I was moving. But don't we say that the powers that be have leaked this out, right? I know we've said that before. That it's not by chance that people started discussing flat Earth.
Well, they probably needed a control, right? They knew it was going to come, so they tried to get a grip on it, open it up, open the door themselves to have maximum control. It just didn't really work out as they hoped. They didn't get it fully under control.
A comment back to Eli's point. When you look back historically to as far as you want to go, how was control used? And then when you think about newspapers in every city with headlines, then you have radio, then you have television, now you have computers, big tech, and social media, and your phone is everything now. If they want you to think a certain way, all of their outlets put out a headline. And everybody who has one of these devices or variety talks about it or has at least seen it. So I get a friend of mine sends me something 2 days sometimes after I've seen it already in one of the internet feeds I follow for, just a quick look at, news worldwide. And it's like, okay, why did he send that to me? Well, he's looking at something, maybe the same one, and he's just trying to alert me to it. Well, how many times is that happening a day to how many people? And even if someone's not sending you that headline, you perhaps are looking at it because you got one of these devices. So it's for total control. So now all of a sudden, as we've seen in those YouTube videos where they show you all these different news outlets saying the same thing, reading off a script, and it's just like 20, 30, 40 of them. It's like, oh my gosh, this control feature is amazing. So it's for total control, all of these outlets that they got to make you think a certain way.
That's why they call it programming.
Yeah.
Because it's a program
Nathan,
for you to absorb, so you become programmed and start saying it and think you're smart.
Go on, Albariqua.
What other social medias do you promote your videos in?
Twitter and Facebook, although I don't use either, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I would suggest get on TikTok.
There's no money in TikTok.
You reach a wide variety just by putting 2-3 minute video, and it promotes a shitload. I mean, I've seen a lot of flat Earth videos, even which it gets on here by other people that adds them in there, but there's a lot of flat Earth being discussed in TikTok, which could be a set to a promotion towards link to your videos in YouTube.
In the same way, other than there's a very useful button on Facebook, on YouTube to just share to Facebook, share to Twitter. There's no money in me spending time on Facebook or Twitter. That might seem, self-centered or whatever.
TikTok also does but the TikTok also does donate. You have donations and other kinds of stuff. If you get to 1,000 followers and you go live there as well, And not only that, like I said, it's just a promotional tool. Like my wife streams on Twitch, but she promotes her video because people pretty much it's a way to be exposed, shown to other people that are not interested or just regular people that are not even have any knowledge of what you're around.
I'll look into it.
I think I am missing something here, Nathan, concerning TikTok. I don't have a TikTok account yet. It's been suggested to me to get one. And the reason I never got one was because TikTok was more for younger people. I'm 44, so it was more for teenagers originally. But now, then it became something that teenagers and people in their 20s had accounts on. And now it's become popular where a lot of people have accounts. The point I'm making is there's a lot more younger people in their early 20s and stuff, on TikTok. And they won't be on Facebook. A lot of them don't even have a Facebook account. They're on TikTok.
Okay, I'll look into it.
Times have moved on.
No, none of my stepson's friends or him, they basically don't really, they just kind of know what Facebook is. That's where we're at right now.
Facebook is becoming MySpace very quickly.
It is MySpace. It actually
hold on a
worse
second, guys.
because there's a whole.
I've seen Nathan's video on
worse.
TikTok.
I'm literally
I've seen Nathan's
on
videos on
Facebook.
TikTok already.
Good. That
Right,
means
but not by him, so there is not a promotion towards his channel or whatnot.
You sure? When I've looked at it in the past, it hasn't seemed like it's. I have no time, literally zero. So to do TikTok means relinquishing something else. And whenever I've looked at it in the past, I've gone, this doesn't seem worth it. At the time, I looked at it, but I'll look at it again.
I'd just bump your shorts onto it and then put a link to the live shows at the end of it. And stuff.
Adam, you stole what I was going to say. I was just going to tell him it would be a dope place to actually put those shorts that you make, those real short.
That's what I was going to say too.
That would be beautiful. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? Since we're all doing it, I
exactly,
thought about it first.
and not only that, it's the can I said that the other thing that it's very popular now is that once you reach 1,000 followers, you could go live, and you could all you have to do is just what do you use, Streamlabs, OBS or something?
Yeah, OBS.
Yeah, so all you have to do is just add another thing to that, or to resend it to Twitch. You go live there too, and you'll be able to promote. You know, people that are going through the live streams, they will come out there, and people will also donate in there through there, and they do.
Yeah,
You know what else, Dave? You could nicely ask QE if you could have a load of numpty clips. They'd go over there very well.
Ooh, that would do good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a look at it, and then I'll potentially put the videos that are less than 60 seconds on. Okay, cool.
I can guarantee you some of the ballers have TikTok accounts and they have anti Nathan Oakley stuff going on their accounts.
Right, okay.
So basically, Nathan, what's being suggested to you from everything that's been said is use the way they do it for your benefit. Get it on as many platforms as possible so that what you're doing could be seen. It could be part of how people think instead of the way whoever they is, use it to get how people think.
Gotcha.
If I had to pick one, I'd pick TikTok over Facebook. If I had to pick one for advertising.
Well, I've certainly seen a lot of TikTok recently, mainly because I've been interested in the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. And, you know, have you guys been keeping up with this trial? Am I going to talk about it when you're all lost interest now?
We were all discussing
just on the funny parts
of the show yesterday.
Did you notice that she trolled TikTokers? Did anybody pick up on this?
Did not.
Okay.
Not that bit.
TikTokers made videos about Amber Heard with cats and with people dressing up like them and copying her testimony on the stand, sometimes literally overdubbing her testimony. But the one thing that they did the most of was, my dog stepped on a bee. And then they pull a funny face.
Yes.
Right. Well, she was wearing on her first day back after the week break where the judge had to go on a conference. The first day back, go and have a look at what she's wearing on her ears. She's wearing a set of $400 Gucci bee earrings. Not both, just one. pointing away from the jury. So on the ear that the jury cannot see, she's got a B earring on it. Now, she's basically laughing at people saying, yeah, of course I spent my entire week looking at what you guys were saying about me when I wasn't supposed to. Here's my B earring just to let you know. She's a psychopath. The video that exposed that to me was Popcorn Planet. And what he did was, he literally, I don't think he's got any interest in this subject other than, labelling Amber Heard in this particular manner. He just went to psychopath in the dictionary, read out what it said, and then went, she's a psychopath. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been saying that for the longest time, because I've been watching this for about 4 years. The Amber Heard trial's been interesting to me for a very long time. But yeah, she is the archetypical psychopath. That's what she is. And they're 1 in 20 of the Western world population, probably a little bit higher. They're very, very prevalent in Western world culture. There's lots of psychopaths, and that's what they're like. That's why it was so interesting to me. It was the subject I was covering before I came to the Flat Earth subject, watching people like Thomas Sheridan and learning about psychopathy, because I'd recently engaged in a court battle with a psychopath. So what do you want? That's why it's interesting to me. But when Popcorn Planet literally brought up the definition and was like, this is a psychopath, like, yep, absolutely correct.
I agree with you. I think one of the behaviours I saw, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a very odd way of blowing your nose. I think these accusations that she's getting feedback there, I don't know.
Eli, I think it might be from you.
That's not me.
No, it was coming off, I think, Discord, I think. But then, I think she did a thing where she's snorting cocaine whilst on the witness box.
No,
as well.
she didn't.
If you look at that there's the weird nose blowing and more like a sniffing. And that,
the
to
cocaine
me, would
thing?
be the kind of psychopathic behaviour that they're so egotistical. Can I get away with this? Is it
I must be missing some entertainment, man. Because I'm
No.
not
Oh,
paying attention to any
dude.
of that crap.
Okay, I'll debunk that. So or not debunk it, but offer up a more reasonable explanation. So they had the makeup artist for Amber Heard on the stand, via Video Depot, but on the stand for Amber Heard yesterday. And she was explaining very specifically that as an actress, Amber Heard found it difficult to cry when acting. End quote. Now, given that that's the case and she's on the stand when she's being questioned by her own counsel, she's offering up crocodile tears for the most of her testimony until there's an objection, and then she snaps into completely straight-faced until she needs to start a little act up again. But she's trying to produce tears. So what do you think is more likely? That she needs to go on a frantic garbling rant on coke, or perhaps there might be something to generate a few tears in the tissue? Which is more likely?
I'm going with the coke. From everything else that I've heard.
I'll have the coke too. Waiter.
I mean, it can't be, but it definitely looks like it's a sniffly sniff.
We only have a Diet Coke.
It's just acting badly. Even if you discount the idea that there's anything at all on the hanky, it's just bad acting.
Let's be honest. She's not exactly, the greatest actress of all time. So how did she get to the position she's in? Obviously, she was a good party girl. Behind the scenes, she had looks. She was a good party girl. That's how she got to the position she's in.
Look, if you're implying she sucked cock to get there, Brian, I'm not going to have it on my show.
I'll be honest, Brian. When I heard her say, I think it was a couple of days ago, that the reason her dog had incontinence was because she ate Johnny's stash of weed. She wasn't the best actress when she was portraying that. That was one of the least plausible things I've heard. The whole thing is littered with her. Look, I'm just watching it there. That's a snort. That is not Whether
It
that's
is a
smelling
start.
salts, but then she's like twitching her nose afterwards, mate. It's like just looks like a cokehead to me. I'm sorry.
Adam, that's a new word for me. What's in consonants?
Have y'all noticed, Lord? I mean, how do you object to your own question?
That's easily done. If you understand the process, if you listen to the cross-examination of Amber Heard by Camille Vasquez, you'll listen to her object to a question that's being answered by Amber Heard and then requesting that the answer be stricken from the record. So she will object after asking a question in the exact manner that Baby Rottenborn, as they called him, did also. The problem was he's objecting to the answer to his very specific question, as opposed to objecting to the expanding upon a question that hasn't even been asked. So in the case of, did you donate your money to charity? That's not an opportunity for a battle of semantics. When it comes to pledge and donate, it's a very simple yes or no answer. So if you say, yes, I pledged to donate it all, that's how pledges work, the objection would be, it's outside of the question that's being asked. I want it all stricken. That would be an objection that you would raise to a person that you're questioning, that's not your own party or whatever you call it. So I can understand how somebody would accidentally do that. Just lose track of where they are in cross or in redirect or where they are, and they object, and it's like, no, you haven't got grounds in this instance.
The question was that he asked the one guy, you don't know that he had an injury in his hand.
How did you know his finger got chopped off?
The doctor told me.
How did you know his finger was chopped off? And the answer was, Dr. Kipper told me. Objection, hearsay. You asked him how he found out.
That was so hilarious. It feels like they just came out of the bar exam. But yeah, I can see what you're saying though.
Well, he and there's a couple of junior representatives on both sides, and he's one of them. So it's a bit of a rookie mistake, but by the same token, I think people made a much bigger deal of it than necessary. You know, it's a rookie mistake is probably a reasonable description of it. But then you've got people like Camille Vasquez, who is absolutely top of her game, just leagues ahead of almost any solicitor you will ever encounter ever. That's on Depp's side. That's who he's got.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's a fascinating subject, and you know, what I like more than anything is the reaction from people in the last day or so, because they don't appreciate when they're watching Johnny Depp giving his testimony and putting his side of the story, that there is actually going to be another side of the story, and it won't look good for Johnny Depp at all. The witnesses that come forward for Amber are going to try and humiliate him, try and make him look like a terrible person. They're going to try and undo his case. And yeah, they're going to cherry pick the testimony that looks best for their case. If there was no case, she'd have settled, wouldn't she? There wouldn't be a court case if she didn't think she'd got something to fight for. But the people who are like...
Nathan.
Go on.
No. She would do this anyway, because her case is that she's going to push her luck. And if she keeps pushing her luck and keeps on not admitting that she is the party that wrong, that she is in the wrong, she's the party in the wrong. This is what the kind of person she is. She's going to keep pushing it, right, in the hope that in the end somehow it looked like she is the party that is in the right. Now, if she's shown to be in the wrong, then for her it's like, well, I might as well have gone through with the trial because there was a chance of being looked like I ended up in the right. That's the kind of person she is. She is a lawyer. She's willing to do anything. She doesn't care. She'll go through with the process. In the hope that she can sway the jury and whatever else, and the judge and the public opinion towards her, right? Even though she knows she's wrong. It's obvious she's wrong. It's obvious who the maniac is in that, right? It's her. But if she can sway the public, she's willing to do it, because that's the kind of person she is. Because that kind of person... One second. This is why she's a bad actress. That kind of person only has one emotion, and that is anger. They don't have any other emotions.
That's not true.
That's what she's about.
What you've just described. Hold on. Brian's up until that point. Your summary was good. It's not anger that they just have. That's not correct. It's a lack of empathy.
Yeah.
So when you're describing how she doesn't give a toss, she's going to drive on anyway. It doesn't matter who it's going to affect. That doesn't matter to them. Psychopaths. People lack empathy in that regard, and that's what you're seeing. A total lack of empathy.
That's what.
Yeah, but a lack of empathy is not an emotion.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
This is the point. She's been described as a psychopath. And when you look at what's going on in the case, you mention lack of empathy, but there are other traits, dishonest, manipulative, narcissistic, a disregard for others. All of these things play into and answer the question, why would she go to court if she didn't have a case? Because she thinks she can manipulate the court, I would suggest. That's what a psychopath would be.
Exactly.
Like. Yeah.
Hold on.
That's
she
exactly
would
my
not
point.
have done this unless she has a case. Somebody told her she had a case. That's the way lawyers operate. She would not go into this thinking she's going to lose.
No. Stop. She's being sued.
Yeah, for the op-ed that she did.
She can choose to defend herself or settle. That's her options. It's not like she's gone to these lawyers and gone, have I got a case here? Can I sue him? No. She's been sued because of her op-ed. Correct. Whoever said that from Discord.
Yeah, but once she establishes what she needs to establish, then she can counter-sue. That's the whole game.
What you'll find is in Hollywood, you'll find a large amount of people who are not brilliant actors, but they are willing to put themselves out there as if they are good actors. But they only really have anger. They don't have any other, they're not in touch. There is no other emotions because they don't feel anything. They're not interested in that less. They only get angry when they are being, when the light is being shone on them for what they really are. That's when they get angry. So they only have one emotion to really work with in acting. There is a few actors out there in Hollywood who were very good actors, but most of them are just like her. They don't have emotions to be good actors.
Okay, I don't agree with you. Before you go through what's just presented, Adam, I've got to disagree with you because I don't want to be combative with you, Brian. But by the same token, the way I see it in terms of anger specifically, what angers a narcissist, and narcissist and psychopath are the same thing. I know Adam just said it was one of the traits, but I see them as the same thing. They are one and the same thing. But what makes them angry is when you see the mask slip. So what a narcissist tends to do is mirror other people's behaviour and copy their emotions. So when you see them present a certain emotion, like with Amber Heard, it's probably a carbon copy of someone else displaying that emotion that she's tried to absorb and then replicate. And that metaphor is the mask. Now, when that mask slips and you see past the portrayal that they're trying to give to you, that angers them.
That's what I said, though. When the light, I just couldn't think of the word to use. When I said the light is shone upon them, which means that they're showing up for what they are, that's when they get angry. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement.
Yeah, we are in agreement. That is the mask slipping. So rather than being perceived as the caring person who gives all their divorce money because they don't want anything to the children's hospital and the ACLU, when Amber Heard was confronted with the fact that she didn't give it, she had already committed to that fact in her own testimony. She didn't have to labour the point. But instead, the mask slipped. Who's that? Plain decoded, please mute. The mask slips, and she gets very annoyed because the spin that she's trying to put on it isn't being accepted by the solicitor. So she gets very snarky and angry with the solicitor. Well, that's because in that moment, the mask that she's got on is I'm a very caring and generous person and completely altruistic. Now, when she's shown not to be, that pissed her off royally.
Sounds like a typical brawler.
So would it be safe to say that it's no longer Amber Heard, it's Anger Heard?
Amber Turd.
No, Anger Heard.
Anger Turd.
Anger heard.
Johnny are a good.
We now said it for the third time, so we're good.
Hang on, let me tell you a good acting story. Right, Nathan, you might know this one, or you might even correct me. But as far
Before
as I
you
know, I have
do,
it correct.
before you do, Adam's got something he wants to go through in this. So can you go on to your story?
I didn't. I just thought it'd be useful as a reference point to put them up, and
we'll just read them, and then we can get to Brian's story if you don't mind.
It probably was quickly then. So, can you relate it? Superficial charm, antisocial behaviour, pathological lying, manipulative nature, lack of emotions or empathy, false superior complex, a narcissistic personality, disregard for others' rights and emotions, impulsive nature, and aggressive behaviour. And I said, I think if you've been following the case, probably not far off both of them, to be honest.
I don't know. I think there's certain aspects of that that's been drawn out by a narcissist, and I can relate. They do intentionally draw out those aspects, and then they use them against you once they draw them out of you, usually with information that they've gained from you whilst wearing your own mask. So they emulate your character so that you fall in love with them. What you see is your own reflection in their behaviour that's a lot like yours, and you hear that in the stories that Johnny Depp tells. She knew all about the books and the music he was reading. She dressed like him, if you see the pictures. So she essentially tries to wear the mask of Johnny Depp so he'll fall in love with her. But once you've got that commitment through the love bombing, you deprive them of it. And then all of the information that comes from the person that is being deprived of that drug, in this case, the love bombing drug, will give up a lot of information that then you can use against them to get their goat. And once you've got it, they'll react and mirror your behaviour if you're being violent. So that's what they rely on. They want you to behave like them so then they can turn around and cry foul. We see it in debate. We see it here. That type of behaviour. Now, while 1 in 20 of the Western world are narcissists, I would say that there's a large proportion of them that will find their way to platforms like this.
That's why I said earlier, it sounds like traits of a baller.
Yeah, very specific ones. Yes, indeed. And we're going to encounter
never
them.
admitting. I'm sorry.
No, go on, Brian. You're up next, so go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, they're never conceding that they're wrong. That's a narcissistic trait. Never conceding.
Superficial charm, Brian. If you start to fight ballers, it's good.
But I'm back here listening to you guys, and that's all I'm hearing. Every time you're using her to describe the psychopath, I just hear the typical ballers that we come against. It's literally the same thing.
I'll retitle it: Common Psychopathic Traits of YouTube Ballers. Superficial charm, false superior complex.
Yeah.
I heard she's a flat earther.
Say again?
Said I heard she's a flat earther.
Who Amber Heard?
Everyone's a flat earther.
She's a flat earther. All is forgiven.
Yeah. It's all Depp's fault.
But that's why. Yeah, but that's why this case is so intriguing, because it does remind us of the freaking anti-flat earthers.
Yeah, if you said anti-flat earther, I'd believe that more.
An owner of many goats, if the worst case is I just got to give up one goat, I don't have a problem with it.
But even in the time I've spent in this subject, I've encountered at least one psychopath that I would say absolutely, without question, that person was a psychopath. But that's because you're going to find your way to them no matter what you do. Most people encounter them and don't even realise that they've encountered them.
You know, Nathan, ignoring my puns can get me angry.
Yeah, you're outing Tent.
And you wouldn't like him when he's angry.
Yeah.
Tent Baxby.
I don't necessarily agree with the diagnosis they gave her in court either. When I was taking the mick out of the lady that was giving her a histrionic, certainly, but borderline personality disorder is just female psychopath as far as I'm concerned. the traits are the same, but the mask might alter depending on who they're dealing with. You know, they're typically drawn to people of an empathic nature. You know, it's kind of yin and yang, where there is no empathy in a psychopath. They'll find themselves attracted to or in the presence of people who are extremely empathic, who they then use and abuse, as you'd imagine. But when they say borderline, I was just going to say borderline to me is a kind of nothing-y term. It's just psychopath.
Sounds like negligible.
Hey, Nathan, I think Waters Level has a question down here. Can you come off mute and ask your question? Yeah, Davey, you're off mute. We can't hear you. There's something up with your mic. Sorry about that.
No, not going to get anything out of him. Do you know what the question was?
No, his mic's not working. Sorry.
Oh, okay, no worries. That's it. Yes, we've already got there, so there's nothing else for me to add in this regard. We've paralleled the psychopathy of our opponents with the psychopathy on display for the general public in the form of Amber Heard, which is all I wanted to do, really.
I thought Brian had a story to share about acting.
He did. I'm glad you reminded me. I knew there was something else.
Okay, I'll share it now. The time might be gone past a bit, but I'll share it anyway. If maybe not everyone watching this will remember the movie, but they can always Google it. Marathon Man, who was in it was Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier and a few other Roy Scheider and a few other famous actors. During the filming of that, Dustin Hoffman was doing, I think what they call it, Nathan, correct me here, as method acting, where he was off running because he had to be running during the film. So he was running so he could make it look like that he was really running when he comes to a stop. He could make it seem like he was really running as he'd be out of breath and all that. So he was doing running around the circuit that he was going to be using for the movie or whatever. This is what he was doing. And Laurence Olivier was watching him. He called him over. He says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm running because if I'm running, it'll make it look like when I'm on camera that I'm really out of breath and everything." And Laurence Olivier said to him, because Dustin Hoffman obviously would be a very accredited actor and he's a very good actor, but Laurence Olivier would have been a step ahead. And Laurence Olivier said to him, because he's older, he says, "Why don't you just try acting, my boy?" He says, "So I mean, what are you doing all this for? You're supposed to be acting. You're supposed to give people the impression." Because Laurence Olivier, I think, was a stage actor originally. So you can't run and be on stage and make it look like you're out of breath. You have to act as if you're out of breath. So that was a pretty good story.
Just for clarity, method acting is where you become the person. So, not particularly famously, but Back to the Future's original main star was Eric Stoltz, who's a method actor, and he played Marty in Method. In other words, he was always Marty. If he was on set, he wouldn't respond to you unless you called him Marty, because that was his character name, and as a method actor, you become the character. There's a couple of others. The guy who played American Psycho, forgot his name, and Batman, he's another method actor. Although I've seen him out of character. But there we go. It just means you remain in character.
Isn't it, though?
Say again?
I got a question
What
for
Brian was saying. He's right. That's just cheating. It's like if I was just going to play in a film, I'm going to play that I've got drunk. It's just like getting drunk, isn't it? Really?
No,
it's not really acting.
No. So, but a good example by Brian is because the guy's a physically fit runner capable of running long distances. Well, that character, to be that character, you'd have to become physically fit and capable of running. And if you were a method actor and the character got up every morning at 6 o'clock to go running, you will convey that emotion of doing it because you do it. That's the idea.
I got a question for Brian. Brian, is it safe?
Is it safe?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Those who know that movie know that line.
It's a line. It's a line that unless you obviously watch the movie, you wouldn't know.
it's an absolutely brilliant movie for anyone who thinks that they are not missing out on that. And they are, oh yes, they are. It's absolutely brilliant.
Okay,
Well,
recommendation
one of the
from Brian: Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman and Laura.
I said it.
Okay, what did you say?
He just said the name Marathon Man, as if no one else had said it.
Okay.
I just got back, so I don't even know what you're talking about, but I heard it's the same.
Yeah, but you didn't hear what happened before. I already said it was Marathon Man at the very start. I detailed the movie before you came in like 4 minutes later.
Sorry.
It's Marathon Man.
Oh, that's what happened.
He thought it was
At the
Jeopardy.
end of a conversation.
Yeah, it wasn't like a trick question. It wasn't like guess the movie.
He thought it was Jeopardy.
Yeah, I thought I won. Never thought that.
Yeah, but you didn't form it as a question, so you will lose anyway.
What do you mean? I would have won. I said Marathon Man. How would I lose?
You have to say what is.
Because in Jeopardy, you have to say what is.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Simon says.
One of the best.
It's a globe.
I'm still not having it about the exercise, though. That's not method acting. To get into the character and get up every morning so you're in the right frame of mind and to be that. But actually, for a particular scene, to make yourself out of breath, that's not method acting.
That is method acting. That is absolutely method. You're doing what you do throughout the day, and then when you step onto the set and start filming, you carry on doing what you do, but with very specific lines that will happen because you already know they're going to happen in your life as that character when they happen, and you have to regurgitate the lines. That's method is just being the character.
Alcoholic.
The point of a method actor is that they become the role. It has to be real to them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then they can use whatever they like in order to achieve that, whether it be physical workout, if it's a physical person, or they really get into the material that their character knows.
Right.
Either way, do their best to make it real to them.
My point being then, I'm playing an alcoholic. Do I go away and train with lots of alcohol drinking? But then when I come on set, do I stay sober to do the acting?
No, you'd be a drunk. No, you'd be a drunk. If you were a method actor and you were playing a drunk, you'd be drunk.
Okay. Did anybody ever see that Andrew Dice Clay? He had a short-lived sitcom. It was on HBO, The Dice Man. Well, anyway, in this, that guy Brody that was in The Pianist, got his first name, Adrian Brody. Well, he's living with the Dice Man because he's a method actor and he wants to play him. It is hysterical. I would recommend that you get a hold of that and watch it.
Do you remember?
Oh, yeah,
this is where Dice does the fuckings.
Say again. One more time from Discord.
No, it was in reference to what 10th Man was saying about Dice. That was a great episode. And in the episode, he goes, "This is where Dice does the fucking."
We would hear it if you shut up, Neil. Go ahead. Try once more time.
In the episode, Dice is talking to Broner, and he says, "This is where Dice does the fucking."
Yes. And he's in the bed with him.
Well, we don't know that.
He wanted to show him how he does the fuckings.
Okay. Sounds hysterical.
It's very dicey to me, but I didn't say anything about Dice.
Yeah.
Hey, the Dice Man was the first comedian to sell out an arena.
Oh, my God.
We didn't hear it the first time, so you can say again.
I could
okay.
I could recite it verbatim. I've heard it twice now.
The past 5 minutes trying to get in an example of serious method acting, a famous example, and I can't do it because everyone's talking about this thing and that thing, and they're making jokes about this and that.
It's a bloody outrage. You want to talk about method acting?
It is outrageous.
You go ahead.
Did you want to reference the guy that actually wounded himself because he had to have that wound and he didn't want the makeup, so he made
For all
a cut?
you know, this is Christopher Walken
will
actually
tell-
flying, for all we know. So let him tell us.
Do you remember the old black and white Dracula? I think it was your man. I think it was Bela Lugosi. Was that the man's name? He used to play. He played him. It was this old Dracula. It was a silent movie, and he had the big teeth and the long, spindly fingers. Do you remember that? A bald Dracula.
He is Dracula archetype. Yes, I think if you don't,
Yes.
you'd see it in black and white and go, "Of course."
Blood.
No,
well, it was all sort of subtitled. It was a silent movie. It was really old. Well, that man, I think his name was Bela Lugosi. I could have that wrong. That man, while on set, spent as much time as possible in makeup, and we used to go around in the dark all the time, like Dracula. So we spent, like, people I think on set were scared of him because he would turn up in the dark at 3 a.m. as Dracula. That's what he did. So he spent as much time as possible on set.
Was he drunk?
As Dracula. He didn't mix. I don't know.
I'm going to tell
Then
you
he
a better
wasn't
one.
method
Al
acting.
Pacino.
If he wasn't drunk, then he wasn't method acting. That's what I got out of it.
Al Pacino was accused of being a heroin addict in the early 70s because people seen him nodding out on trains, roaming the streets, and then 9 months later came out Panic in Needle Park. So he's a method actor. He got totally into it. I don't know if he was shooting junk, but if you see the movie, you'd have to think he's doing this too good.
I've got him up. It is Bela Lugosi. I've got him on screen.
Oh, good. I remembered it correctly then.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Paisan.
You
No one
remember
can see it in
Foster
Discord.
Brooks?
No, Foster Brooks.
Remember Foster Brooks? He was the guy who played the drunk on all the Dean Martin roasts and all that.
No, never heard of him.
You got to watch that guy.
Yeah, shit. I knew Foster Brooks before you were in diapers.
How old are you, Kiwi?
Old enough to know that.
Come on. Was it cloth or peppers? What diapers are you referencing here? Okay.
Leaves.
Wow.
Wow.
I just got my stats
Right.
for the.
Anything else?
I just got my stats for the live show.
God.
According to the stats, I got 1,631 views during that live show. That doesn't sound right, does it?
Nice.
That would
Should
be,
have more.
That would be commensurate with it floating around the 300 for the whole hour.
Well, you got the last 1,000 just
total
on this.
views.
You got the last 1,000 just in this last 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Maybe.
right. That's Polarius.
Polarius?
That's a good one.
No, that was chocolates.
I think Eli's.
I stole that one. I stole it.
It was chocolate.
You stole it, QE? Are you kidding me?
It. Oh my. What's up, boys?
There's nobody out to play. They don't come out no more. You scared them away.
Had an interesting topic come up last night, and I wasn't prepared for it. It was just something off the cuff that somebody said. Maybe we want to get into it. I don't know. But somebody was talking about belief and knowledge, and I said, wait a second. Go ahead and cite each and show how they're the same. And they took off, and I didn't know they took off. And I said, that's a law of identity violation. And then somebody said, is that a logical fallacy? And I sat there and thought for a couple seconds, and I said, That's not a logical fallacy, because a logical fallacy is an error in reasoning. And I don't know if you could classify that as an error in reasoning, because it's just a identity thing, right?
Yeah, it's a disagreement in the Socratic method. You're not agreeing on terms, as opposed to committing a logical inconsistency.
Yeah. Then I looked it up, and it said it was an indirect equivocation fallacy, but that's incorrect, because an equivocation fallacy is using two terms or the same term with two meanings, right? But now you have two terms with the same meaning. So I think I reconciled it in the end that I was right. My gut reaction initially was right. But I don't know. We could discuss that unless you want to get on with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
Well, it's claiming a synonym where there is no synonym, right? So if you want to, I can link it to Amber Heard, because she said that pledge and donate were the same. She used them synonymously. And you're like, what? I think her exact term was pledge. I used the word pledge synonymous with donate. I think that was the exact quote.
What's the original? What'd you say, QE?
It's just a law of it's a law of identity violation.
No, what were they saying? Belief in knowledge? Was that what he said?
Yeah, belief and knowledge were the same. Yeah.
I mean, the standard is evidence. There's an evidentiary standard that's different between the two of them.
Between the two of what?
Belief and evidence. One has got evidence for it, the other hasn't.
That's correct. They're different. Yep. So it's an identity thing. But the question was whether the law of identity violation was a logical fallacy.
No, I think they're.
That's what I said.
Like you say, you're not meeting in terms when you go through the Socratic method. If you think belief is the same as it's not.
Yeah, there is no reasoning. It's a what is, right?
Right. You're not putting it into any sort of form.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's what I said. That was my first gut response, and I think I'm right. So I thought I'd bring it up because it was an outlier. It never happened before. So
you're saying it's a law of identity violation as opposed to a logical fallacy, but the law of identity violation isn't a logical fallacy in and of itself. It's just
that's it.
Go on.
Yes. No. Yes. You're correct. Yeah. That was my thought.
It's having a good understanding of the Socratic method as alongside what is and isn't a fallacy, right?
If I've got some scientific knowledge, can I have a scientific belief?
No. That's a misnomer. Scientific belief sounds a lot like the incorrect phrasing of a theory.
Because belief and knowledge have meanings. So when you stick with the words, one of them makes no sense because of the nature of the word belief and knowledge.
Right.
When you put it in scientific,
that's a good point, Adam. Yep, it's a good point.
Not quite a married bachelor, but almost.
What, scientific belief? A scientific belief? Yeah, that's a married bachelor.
Well, no, it isn't. It depends on the context around it, doesn't it? So I can call a supposition of cause a scientific belief.
You could call the supposition a belief.
Within the context of a now validated, hypothesis-based experiment validated, that stage, I could describe correctly my supposition prior to validation as my scientific belief. It was in the and going through. Just depends on the context.
In doing so, it demonstrates them. Sorry, John.
That's not a belief anymore.
Yeah, in doing so, it demonstrates that your scientific belief within that is without anything to back it up yet. That's why you're calling it a belief. Then it could go.
Yeah, but it's not scientific yet.
No, but
It's
I
this.
understand the wiggle.
My point was it was being described within the process. My point isn't that that's valid or that I'd use it. My point is that words are magic, and I can make it work if I need to. That's all the point I'm making. I'm not saying I would or it should.
But if you do, it then differentiates the difference in the two words' meaning anyway.
But that would just mean I'd have to give just means I'd have to qualify it, doesn't it?
Well,
and in qualification, it only leaves you with differentiating the words. Not, I can't see how you can conflate the two. They have.
There's no conflation. I believe this will cause that. I can even put it in past tense. I believed, whilst performing the scientific method, that this would cause that.
Exactly. So, and in saying that, the implication is it was a past tense thing, or it's something that you hadn't proven yet to make it knowledge.
Right.
So by using it, you clarify its meaning, and that it is not that knowledge and belief aren't the same.
So the lesson here is words are magic, and you can twist them to make them work however you so fit if you choose to, so long as you've got the knowledge behind it to qualify it.
You're all complicating it too much. You're complicating it too much. If you have knowledge, if you have belief, then you don't have knowledge. If you have knowledge, then you don't need belief.
Yes, that's correct. I'm not disagreeing with you. Yes, I have made it too complicated, but for a good reason. Because that then leads on to me being able to employ an equivocation fallacy with the words that I've just used in context correct. I can wangle in the word belief with science, make it contextually correct, but then abuse it afterwards with a different magic trick, just another string of words. And that is what happens.
Yeah, but that happened to me the other day when they were accusing me that if you tomorrow, Nathan, believe that and started believing or saying that Easter was real, that I would follow. And I said, no, I wouldn't. But if it was validated, then I would believe it. And then Anthony said, then you wouldn't have to believe it anymore, Neil, because it was validated.
And he's right.
Right?
Well, he's right.
Correct.
Yeah. But I was going the other way. I was pointing out that when it comes to a use of words, being a wordsmith, and having a justifiable reason for inserting words like belief into science so that you can then use them to a different ends later down the line, that's where words and their specific meanings and the context, i.e. the Socratic method, has to be employed to get to the realization that you're not necessarily being or falling victim to a logical fallacy in this instance, but it more than likely is being set up in that way so it can be used as a logical fallacy to convince you of something that isn't necessarily true later down the line. But the people we deal with know how to set those sort of pins up, ready to bowl them down later. But catching it early on doesn't mean you cry fallacy. And I think that's QE's point.
You have a belief, right, in your supposition. That's where the belief is. There's nothing scientific about it yet, is there?
But you've just used the word science.
Yes.
I can bullet point that.
Supposition.
I can bullet point that
Holy
and
shit.
put the. I just want to. He's disagreeing with me whilst making my point, which is frustrating. Yeah, but you've just packaged them together too, haven't you, Adam?
Yes.
Well, that could also be the way I did it, the way you did it. You're doing it defensively, technically even more superior to my method if I'm going to abuse it later.
I'm going to keep reiterating that until Socratically we agree where
the fucking great my car's dead
is being used. And I wouldn't allow you to keep... I know you want to use it later after setting me up with that, but I'm not going to let you. I'm going to keep going back where that belief sits.
What is the definition of the word science?
That's it. There we go.
The word belief.
Brian draws a line in the conversation in one foul swoop. Yeah. Thank you, Brian.
They're contradicting each other.
Shut up, Brian. I was winning until you shut up.
Sorry.
Yes, they do contradict each other.
My car's not starting. This is great.
Would you like us to all pray?
I think he could just take a magnet and swing it through the air, and the ether would fix that.
No, there was something going on because lights were going on. And then I thought it was all right. Now it just don't start. Nothing.
Is it manual?
I have no idea. There's no lights going on. Nothing.
Is the gearbox manual?
He has no idea.
Yeah, everything is dead. Nothing's going on.
He doesn't know.
I just drove my wife to get her nails done. I'm sitting in front. The car's off. I'm on the phone. I went to start it. Nothing.
What kind of transmission does the car have?
What do you mean?
I mean, how does it select gears? Do you have to push a stick? Or...
Yeah, it's the one in the middle. Park, reverse, neutral drive. What are you?
It's an automatic. It's an automatic. Okay, you're not going to be able to bump start it. You need to find someone to pop their bonnet and get some jump leads on it.
Might be your starter.
I don't think it's that. The battery's fine. The starter's fine. It's something with the wiring. Great.
Have you got something?
Well,
Give the solid
Check your battery cables for rust.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, I just did. It's like dead. Nothing.
When did you last put that liquidy stuff in the side?
Is the transmission in D? Transmission in D, Neil?
No, of course not. Listen.
Well, it's not that.
When I shut the car, look, I just shut the car off, and it's still showing a quarter of a tank of gas. When that car goes off, that needle should be down to E. So there's something wrong with the wiring.
If you open the bonnet and look inside, is there anything obvious pointing out to you? If not, shake your head looking at it. That helps often. I mean, I assume it helps. I see so many people doing it at the side of the road. I can only assume that helps.
Do you have any?
You gotta top up your blinker fluid.
Neil, sometimes it's just the wiring is rusty and the battery's not getting to the lights or the ignition switch. So go check your battery cable.
Don't ask him to do that. He didn't know what a transmission was.
No, I wasn't listening. I know what a transmission is.
We had to look up what a bonnet meant.
Bonnet means hood to you guys. Hood.
I know that. I'm just having a go at you.
What do you call the bit at the back where you put stuff in?
That was my next question. A trunk.
Boot. It's called a boot.
A boot?
No, those are feet, man. What are you talking about?
Where? The walk-in.
What do you call the little bits that slip in if you've got like a semi-convertible that's got like hard sections that slip in and out?
What?
If you've got a car that's got like a section down the middle, it's almost a convertible, but you take out little sections from the roof of the car. What do you call them?
The T-top?
We call those flangles.
T-top.
Flangles, we call them.
No, we don't. We call them target tops.
Shut up, Anthony. God, didn't see him there. God damn you.
We don't. He's lying to you. Don't believe him. He's telling lies.
We don't call them T-tops. Just ignore Anthony. Pretend he's not here. We call them flangles.
Flangles?
Flangles.
That's correct. Say it a few more times.
Triangles.
A few more times.
Flangles, flangles, flangles.
That's the one. You call them T-what now? Nobody's buying it anymore. Anthony's ruined this. I was going to have loads of fun with that.
I just hate these flaffers that tell people intentional lies and they go off believing it.
That's where I was going with this. I was just talking about how manipulation of words in a complex manner can lead you to utilising one word which has a different meaning by contextually using it correctly and then utilising it in a different manner later down the line. But you've got to have the knowledge of how the word's used correctly so that you can make people believe you're using it correctly when you are using it correctly so you can abuse it later. Obviously, I'm now laying up that story with a lie, but you've ruined it. I could kill you.
Does this have to do with buoyancy?
Nah, I'm just being a baller.
Yo, guys, what's up?
Hello, was that Steve?
Hawaii Agency.
Hello, Hawaii
Good
Agency.
Lord. I've been doing this for like 2 hours. How's everybody doing?
Very well. How are you?
Word. Great. Okay, I just gotta get this out of the way. So, Kiwi told me about this globe debunk like a year ago, and nobody's talking about it. So, sunsets absolutely debunk the globe because if you just give me like 30 seconds, the sun should set behind the quote-unquote geometric horizon, only 3 miles in front of you, at a 6-foot observer height, correct?
According to the globe model, yes.
Okay, so from Oahu in Hawaii, I can see the sunset past Kauai, which is an island that's 121 miles away. So every time I bring this up, people just don't understand this. The sun should be obstructed by the horizon, right? If the sun is the center of the solar system, it should be hidden behind the horizon only 3 miles in front of you, according to the math. Does that make sense to anybody?
I just paraphrase. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to the geometric horizon to obscure the sun would be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And you observe the distance to the sunset, aka geometric horizon in this example, way beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not a geometric Earth curve edge.
I don't think
Yes,
it's the sun that
100%.
provides the black swan in this instance. It's the other island that you're referencing that is the black swan, isn't it?
Yes, the other island denotes the distance in the same way that the oil rigs give you the distance. So the fact that the sun is setting beyond a demarcation point of X miles makes it a black swan, because therefore the horizon's beyond that distance.
Yes, it would be painfully obvious that the sun would be hiding behind that geometric horizon only 3 miles in front of you. So you can demarcate it with the islands I just mentioned. You can demarcate it from the California coast of Newport Beach to what's that freaking island called? Oh my god.
Catalina.
Yes, thank you,
Catalina.
10th man. Yes, which Catalina is only, I think it's like, what, like 17 miles away or something, but it sets
23
way
to
past that.
26.
So exactly.
Sorry.
So the Terminator line or whatever, the geometric horizon should only be in front of you only 3 miles, but it sets way past that. So when somebody says, oh, sunsets prove the globe, it's like, well, hold on, how big is your globe? Okay, 39, 59 mile radius, great. Well, then I have tons of videos on this too, but nobody ever talks about this. You guys need to talk about this because this is the number one globe debunk. Unless your globe is the size of the fairy tale sun or whatever, but it's that sunset that doesn't set where it should if the Earth, is a ball and it's on an axis and the sun is the center of the solar system. It has to set right there in front of you. It has to.
Okay, do you want to know their response to your claim?
Go ahead.
Their response to your claim is, the geometric horizon is an Earth curve. That only exists in the maths. What you're seeing as the horizon is actually a refracted, non-physical, hologrammatic projection of the Earth curve that you can't see, the second horizon that's geometric, that would only be visible if there was no air. Further to that, the sun that you think you can see reaching the horizon has actually long gone beyond the horizon, because you've got stellar refraction refracting the position beyond Earth curve edge obstructions up to a point where you think you can see it. So you can't actually see the sun you're seeing setting, and the horizon that you're seeing isn't Earth curve, it's a refracted non-geometric position way out into the distance. Obviously. Haven't you ever heard of refraction?
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got the islands and a clear horizon behind them, you're winning already. You don't need to deal with the sun. You've already destroyed it, haven't you?
Correct.
In terms of R.
Correct. But you can
Let me
demarcate the
just
horizon
continue
with the
this way.
sun. What
Hold
the
on.
what the
Real
sun?
quick, sorry guys.
Go ahead.
So if you're looking at your steering wheel and then you're looking at your rear view mirror on the left, the sun, let's just say the sun is the rear view mirror on the left, and you're standing on your steering wheel. Now you turn that steering wheel clockwise, your feet will, you will be rotating, right, clockwise as the sun, as the globe supposedly rotates. And there has to be an obstruction at a certain distance. But the only rebuttal that I hear from these baltards is, oh, are you saying that the sun is 3 miles away? And it's like, no, the sun is not 3 miles away. What we're saying is that the geometric horizon should be obstructing the sun at 3 miles away. But they, of course, come up with a million excuses as to why, it doesn't happen. And refraction is one of them. Yeah, oh, well, the sun isn't really, it appears to be whatever. They just have a bunch of excuses. But there are limitations. And
careful. Stop. Hello? Careful. You've just changed your script from what the globe claims to what there should be. So when you said there are limitations, you've got to be careful with your phraseology, because no, there doesn't have to be limitations unless you're back to very specifically detailing what the Earth curve edge obstruction would be, and you were up until that point. But that is the black swan, and Adam's already pointed it out. The sun doesn't really do anything useful for the argument beyond being a very useful way of highlighting precisely where the horizon will be, because you've got a demarcation point being brightly illuminated by this item. But if you exclude that and just use the horizon itself, it does form just a black swan argument. And when it comes to the acquisition of the R value that they claim in refraction, they can't acquire it if all light is always bent to a geometric point. They can never acquire their geometry. It debunks the geometry because they're claiming it's a hill that gets in the way. The point I stopped you was because when you say there should be limitations, take them back to their own claim at that point, as opposed to falling into the trap that I did back in the day by going overboard detailing what their claim is with Coriolis. Don't tell us what the limitations should be, just take them back to their Earth curve maths. We only have one horizon, and the horizon in your begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve maths is a physical limitation to your view called Earth curve. Now, if you're going to go up against somebody who argues the toss when you show them that Earth curve isn't where it's supposed to be, and they start saying, well, no, it's not supposed to be where you say it's supposed to be, take them to their Earth curve maths. Here it is, marked with an X, labelled horizon, and claimed to be blocking things in the distance. Here it is, beyond Hawaii, or wherever you're saying it should be in their maths.
Yeah, and anybody could do this if you're standing on any west side beach. So anybody who has the ability to go to a west side beach anywhere on Earth, go and demarcate a boat, an island, a buoy, whatever, and you can see that the sun is not setting where it should be if the Earth were evolved with a 39, 59 mile radius. This is the biggest globe debunk, and I don't know why you guys aren't talking about it every day.
We are, my
We
God,
are.
we are,
Yeah.
God, hello. It's called the Black Swan. Not only are we talking about it and have talked about it for the last 2 straight years, it's got a title called Black Swan. Your argument is that argument.
Correct, but this has to do with the sun, which is, according to them, the center of the solar system, right? It's the point where it's the middle of everything, and the sun, and you're rotating backwards at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. You're rotating backwards, and therefore the sun doesn't move. The supposed axis does move a little bit, according to them. It doesn't, obviously. I mean, we could see the sun move a few degrees, during different seasons, but I've observed this for 3 years. And yes, the sun does move a little bit when it sets from left to right, but it doesn't set where it should if the Earth were a ball. I can see it with boats. I can see it demarcating islands, like I just did, and you guys should be talking about this.
Okay, we heard you repeat it. Okay. I heard it the third time and the second time and the first time you said it. But the first time I said it, I gave you their rebuttal afterwards after summarising it for you. Didn't I? What was their rebuttal? You saying where the sun should be? in the heliocentric model, you're wrong. You just don't understand where they say the sun should be in their model. So you've weakened a very strong argument by introducing the sun and where it should be according to you on their model. And I've already told you, no, it shouldn't. It's already gone beyond the horizon in their model. Stellar refraction. But you didn't even acknowledge what I said, and now you're repeating it like we should focus on this argument when it's already labelled and defined as the black swan, but weakened by introducing the sun.
You're starting with so many it should be's, etc., etc., and you're also very close to reifying that horizon yourself. Just remember what the horizon is and isn't, yeah, and remember what it's useful for. It's for debunking all, but if you're just stood on the beach, okay, how do you demonstrate to the baller that that is that distance away? The only way you can do is reify it as a physical edge again. You've got to get into their argument, become with them. You need the landmarks to show them clearly there is no R, and if they say it is, it's refraction, and you've got them on that, haven't you? But to go to the sun, you go into a heliocentric model and saying you shouldn't see this. Why do I see it? You know what I mean? You're playing into their hands.
Yep.
You might as well say you just see too far. Then might as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're giving them a greater opportunity to offer up explanations for in that particular logical consistency. If you were to formulate it as such, another opportunity to pull it apart on an aspect that's majoring on the minors. In this case, the sun. Now, I'll take a different tact and say, first of all, props. You know, a high-level understanding of flat Earth arguments must be in your possession for you to disseminate this to us with the passion you have. So don't see our criticism as anything other than us being hyper-specific in terms of the way that we argue this, and nothing more. So props and kudos. I don't want it to seem like we're being overly negative, but we will be hypercritical of even our own side when it comes to getting the arguments as strong as possible. And the modus tollens argument doesn't give them an inch.
The thing is, if you let them pull you in, like with what Nathan highlighted in terms of the sun not being where it is, yeah. At this point, you're then going to go into that argument, because for you to make your point, you want it to be demonstrated that it is supposed to be going over there, but they're saying, well, it's not, because it's going to not be, and then you're going to waste an hour arguing this principle of the sun not being where it is, where they say it is, and that's why everything really does work on a ball. Yeah, you've lost. You're letting them take you down a path of arguing something in their paradigm.
I love the argument. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think you have a brilliant argument there. But the problem is your argument is not the sun. Your argument is the horizon.
Yes, exactly, Brian. Spot on.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what
of course,
you're using
nobody will ever know how far the sun actually is, but we can debunk the globe or the radius of the alleged radius of the globe using the horizon.
Precisely.
Correct.
Yes.
My argument is not how far the sun is, it's how far the sun should be obstructed by the alleged geometric horizon.
Precisely, yes. And that is an excellent refinement of your argument. Perfect, in fact. Because then what you're describing is the sun giving you the ability to see where the horizon is, and the island in the foreground being the demarcation for distance. So then, in line with the black swan modus tollens, if the Earth's a sphere radius 3959, then every distance to horizon can be no more than. Now, how you see and why you see the horizon's irrelevant. If you want to bring the sun down to it so you can make it really clear at a sunset when you're in Hawaii, doesn't matter. That's perfect. Because then the argument doesn't become, where's the sun in geometrics 3D space in orbital mechanics with respect to the horizon? It's just, the horizon can be no more than this distance, based on your globe geometry.
Right, and here's the issue, Nathan, is that every time I bring up this argument, everybody always says, well, if the sunset is hiding behind the geometric horizon, wherever it is, then that just means that the Earth's a globe. But it's like, wait, that just completely obliterates the entire like fairy tale solar system, because everything is based
it's a different
on
problem.
the radius.
Okay, I got it. That's a different problem. The problem you're dealing with is that the intellectual level of the people that you're putting this to isn't high enough to understand the debunking.
Yeah,
exactly. But you can literally whip out your phone and you can type it up. 1.23 times square root of 6 equals 3.01. So that is the quote unquote horizon or the curvature that the sun is supposed to be hiding behind. Even if it was a little bit further, even if it's supposed to be 3 miles, but even if it was 10 miles, 20 miles, I'd give it to him. Fine, fuck it. But it's over 100 miles and probably even further than that. I just want everybody to really understand.
Stop. Why would you give it to them? They have a specific calculation. Do not ever give them even an inch past that calculation. Do not.
No, what he's giving, Brian, he doesn't mean that. He's talking, and this is the point of the black swan. You don't have to give them anything. The distances are marcated by the oil rigs or the islands. Nobody's giving anybody anything. It's there. It's in front of you. You know what the things are, and you can see their relationship to the horizon. You don't have to
hang on, Adam. No, he said if it was 10 or 20 miles, he'd give it to him. No, do not create a grey area. It's very, very black and white. If the Earth is a globe with a radius of 3959 as an average, then from a 6-foot observer height, we will see the sun go down a geometric horizon that's about 3 miles away. I don't know the exact calculation, but I'd have the exact calculation if I was making that argument. We don't see that. So the Earth is not a globe with a radius of 3959 as an average. And then they are in a position of fighting for a radius value that's different from the official narrative. And they cannot break the radius value that they have, because that changes everything, including all the elevation angles to Polaris, changes absolutely everything. All the latitudes change, all the distances, everything. They can never change that. It has to match what we see in the sky.
Correct. Everything in the sky relies on that.
Brian, you have the sun in that, though. You can't have the sun in this. It's not relevant. And as Nathan said, you're then falling into a trap where you've got all excuses in their argument for the geometry of the sun allowing this optical effect in heliocentrism. You've got to remove the sun from the geometry or the distances in the question. Yeah, it's lovely. It'll illuminate the horizon for you. But the point is that horizon geometric or not? And the markers on the sea demonstrate it's not a geometric function. There is no hill in the way.
And if it's not a geometric horizon, it's not Earth curve, because a geometric horizon is Earth curve. So let's just focus on their claim that with their maths of Earth curve, where Earth curve's going to be. How it's demarcated, how the sun illuminates it, is irrelevant, so long as you don't mention the sun, because that just opens the door for them to debate with you about where the sun is and what the sun is. There's no point. But with that, I'm going to say another massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the thanks button, hitting the PayPal link and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!